Hey guys, just checking on some technical things here. Um, I didn't do like a warning or anything to come onto the stream, so if anyone who pops on could let me know if the audio is okay, that would be awesome. Let's see, share. I'll just start sharing my. I got a lot to cover, so uh, I just want to kind of jump into it as soon as possible. Hey, how's it going, guys? Trevel, thank you for letting me know the audio is good. Uh, hey, Earl, good to see you. That's awesome. Yeah, true, true. All right. So, a lot to cover. I don't know if I'm going to get through all of it today, but hopefully I will. All right. So, I'll just start by kind of going over this again. Hey, drunk uncle, how's it going, man? Um, So I've covered like this before. It's just kind of like my personal cosmology based on what I've learned from other people. A lot of it's based on Jay Dreamer's channel, as I've stated before. So obviously, check his channel out if you want to learn more about what I'm about to say here. Definitely check out his plasma apocalypse videos because there's just a lot of information there. So I'm not saying that I agree with this image, 100%, but it does have a lot of the things that I'm going to be covering in this video, and I think it's on point with some certain things. Like for I don't agree with every little thing. So for instance, I would put the moon lower than the sun. I would say the first heaven is the sky, and the second heaven is the firmament. Stuff like that. I think there's probably layers to the firmament. So I'm not saying I agree with this 100%, but the things to keep in mind for this video are, if you imagine the Earth down here and then this would be the center. Here, let me. I think that yeah. So this is like pretty much the classic North Pole map that people show. I think it like is the nicest presentation to look at. So you could see this is like the bullseye. So you have the center target here. You have the outer ring, then there's the ring of water, then the outer ring of water, then the ring of land. So these are the concentric circles that make up the North Pole area with the large mountain in the center. This is known as Rupus Nigra, or Mount Olympus, or Mount Meru, and a bunch of other names. The Rock, the Black Rock, things like that. And it's portrayed to us in movies pretty much constantly, and TV shows and books and all that too, as either a mountain usually, but also it can be a castle or a tower or a big black skyscraper, or there's a lot of things that it could be. In the movie, In the Tall Grass, it's literally just a black rock in the center of things. So that's this area here. This is like the temple or the castle, and so this is the North Pole. And what essentially happens is, in the underworld, the blue beam, which I believe represents Christ's life force, essentially. It's essentially blue plasma. It will be charging up down here and then shooting up through the center North Pole, through the firmament, and then up into heaven, essentially, and through the apex dome, which isn't really featured in this model, or whatever you want to call it. But also interesting, they have Leviathan here on the outside in this primordial sea. And as the Bible says, there's waters above, which it does seem to be the case if you look at stars, for instance. And I think the Leviathan is essentially the same beast. It's the beast from the sea. It's the kraken, it's the hydra, it's the many-headed dragon. I think those things are all talking about the same thing. So just keep this in mind going forward, and this too, of course. So we're presented. I've talked about rainbows before, but we're presented with. I think what the dome shape essentially looks like, all the time. It's just nobody recognizes it because we're not, told what we're actually looking at here. And this is also a Mandela effect. See, this is like the main rainbow, and then here's the double rainbow. And I remember main rainbows having violet on top and red on the bottom. And interestingly enough, you can see this middle part here. This is known as the black rainbow, and then above it is the double rainbow. And the double rainbow actually does have violet on top and red below. And here's some interesting, residual evidence of how rainbows used to be, and I think that these pieces of residual evidence are essentially kept for a reason. So here, this is like the dome, and this is kind of like the apex dome here, hanging from it, and you can see, they have the rainbow the way I remember it. And then this movie is called Amazing Grace and Chuck, and the name Chuck is short for Charles, which means free man. So here, Amazing Grace and the free man, and then here's rainbows with violet, or a rainbow with violet on top. This is the movie Ella Enchanted, and Ella is, of course, like the name El for God. And then here on the cover, here's like the North Pole castle, and then the rainbow is, the original way still. This is the end of the Little Mermaid. Um, Sorry. Oh, I see what you're saying, Earl. Well, you might be interested in the content. I don't know. It might be a little much. You might want to start on the first live stream. But thanks for being here anyway. I will talk about Star Wars, a little bit here and there, but this is mostly a live stream about the truth of the world that we live in. And you might not you might not agree, but that's all good. So this is the end of the Little Mermaid movie, and you can see this is literally like the end of the movie. So they have the dome with it's the rainbow with the red on bottom and violet on top, and here's Neptune, which is often symbolic of God. And this is like the happy ending. I mean, I saw this when I was a kid, so I don't exactly remember, but I assume that this is like the happy ending where they're going off after being married, and so we're to believe that, these Disney artists don't know what a rainbow looks like, come on. Same thing with the Lego movie. And this I've talked about a lot. The Lego movie is filled with heavy symbolism of the world script, including Trump and the V coming out on 2020, literally. But I've talked about that in the past. But anyway, here at the end of the Lego movie, this is the rainbow the way I remember it. Essentially, it doesn't have all the colors, but then here's the North Pole Castle. It should be here, but they do have the mountain under the rainbow. So they're representing, both things. And this is the vessel. This is just the end credits of the Lego movie. So, the Disney artists for Little Mermaid, the artists here for the Lego movie, these people just don't know what a rainbow looks like. It doesn't make any sense. Hey Jan, good to see you. So this shot is from the movie Cocoon, which I'll be talking about a lot. Maybe a little in this video, but definitely in the future. And this is a really significant scene. So notice like the color of his shirt. This is like the Christ coloring, the blue beam coloring, and then he's got the rainbow the way I remember it with violet on top. And then someone helped me out in the comments. I wasn't able to read this, but they showed me a more clear image or something, and it actually says Camp Keystone. So here you have like the camp for like the Camp of the Saints, and then Keystone, that's the blue beam. The Well, it's the blue beam and coming out of the mountain essentially. So like the blue beam is essentially the key, and then the apex dome at the top of the firmament is like the lock, and then the blue beam is what opens up, the door to the earth essentially. There's another view. So this is from a previous video that I did like a few months or a year ago or something. And I'm saying here, the physical residue, I think, not in every case perhaps, but in a lot of cases, I think that the residue is kept um, to actually convey these messages as well. And I put a couple of these here too. Here's another. This is a Grateful Dead poster. It's like the cover for this album too, where they're live in Europe in 1974, I think. But yeah, you can see the rainbow the original way. And here too, South America looks to be like sort of in its original position too, but it's a little tilted. The big thing here is the rainbow though. And there's actually a lot of interesting symbolism going on here. Plus, the word the, I think, was taken away from Grateful Dead, but I haven't looked at that in a while, but that's just something to keep in mind. The word the tends to get added or subtracted from certain names, again, to send us messages because, I think we've all been essentially the dead. This is like the world of the dead, like the spiritually dead. So the ones who have been becoming alive again and waking up and, getting, Christ consciousness or enlightenment, we're like the grateful dead. So this I was thinking about too. It's interesting. I mentioned this too in previous live streams. So hey, mass production, good to see you. Awesome, awesome you're here. uh, Like I said, I mentioned this in previous live streams, but when you're on, it's like a snow globe essentially. Like if you look at a snow globe from the side, you see like an arch, like a rainbow, like a normal rainbow. But if you look at a snow globe from an aerial view, it doesn't even have to be directly above it. You'll see a circle, not an arch. So the rainbow takes the shape of the dome, depending on which viewing angle that you're at. And interestingly enough, I was showing you guys how red is on top and violet's on the bottom. And when you look at it, like if it's just an arch, it almost kind of seems like a bad thing to me because it's like an inversion of the like chakra ladder because red should be at the bottom and violet should be at the top. But if you think about it in a circular fashion, like if this were, say, the North Pole right here, then violet is actually closer to the North Pole, which actually makes a lot more sense. And then red is on the outskirts, which is where, the normies essentially are. And then we've, essentially risen up this chakra ladder towards the central North Pole, towards the, higher vibration colors like violet. Hey, Azraham, that's awesome. Sorry, I just had to take care of some, normie life issues. Um, so yeah, the double rainbow, North Pole. Here's another circular rainbow. Um, Hopefully the stream doesn't have like little cutouts like last time with the audio and the video. I think something that actually causes it might be when I go through the pictures a little too fast or when I move the mouse a little too fast. So I'll try not to do that. But I did have some things running in the background the last time that I didn't think were running, so, like Photoshop. So hopefully, hopefully it's not clipping like last time. Sometimes it seemed okay, but sometimes it was clipping. So anyway, this is Utah, a state in the United States, and I just want to mention this beehive symbolism quickly. I mean, there's a lot to get here. You got the twin pillars, you got the shield, you got the beehive, which is basically like the dome. Although I don't think that this is what the dome looks like. Although I mean, there's things to look at, of course. Then the eagle is like the phoenix and other things, of course. Um, so beehive. So yeah, this I guess this is a small image. Oops. But anyway, the important thing here is the hexagon pattern. This is what I want to show you guys. So that's associated with like the honeycomb and the beehive. And also, I found it interesting too that like the main symbol of Utah is this delicate arch, which is in one of their national parks. It's called Arches National Park. But this is basically like a symbol for the dome. Like I do think that this is just like a melted archway from a previous brick castle or something that got melted in one of the previous resets. But it's symbolic of the dome, and then the name Utah means people of the mountains or higher up. So it's very interesting stuff going on there. It's also where like the Mormonism is really big. Um, so I mean, it just goes to show how you can look into any of these names and places and things, and it's just like almost everything relates to like all this North Pole, enlightenment symbolism, like the logo for Paramount here. So here we have the dome, we have the North Pole mountain. This is like the pyramid, also like the pyramid, the tower, the mountain, the castle. When you see it in conjunction with these other symbols, it's all referencing the North Pole. And this is, of course, the paramount, like the or, I don't know, precipice, like the apex of the mountain, but then the apex dome would be up here, like the inverted dome. And the apex dome also might even be up here. I'm not sure. But keep in mind too, this line here too, because this line is kind of sneaky, because I think they're basically saying that this is like ground level, so you have the ground level with the North Pole Mountain and then the dome full of stars over it. And I think this is a Mandela effect too. I don't think I'm going to get too into it in this video, but a lot of A's have turned into lambda symbols, and the lambda is essentially the original symbol for a mountain. Like if you see like an upside down V on an old map, like a map from thousands of years ago or something, you would obviously, anyone would recognize it as a mountain. So here, another symbol like that, NordVPN, you got the mountain under the dome. Walt Disney, this is the mountain under the dome, of course, but it's a castle in this instance, and they're actually shooting through the dome, which is the blue beam. Here's the movie Cocoon, which I showed you a tiny bit of before. So I was actually showing this to Jay Dreamers when I was on his channel, I think the first time, and he had a really awesome insight on this. So here you have the dome, and this is like the blue beam charging up in the center, essentially at the North Pole. And then, of course, you also have the water mirror or the black mirror below it. And if I, oop, if I, how do I zoom in on this? Oh, okay. Yeah, so they even now this isn't an accident. They definitely put this pole here because this is like the blue beam shooting through the dome again. There's no way that's an accident. This is like a Ron Howard big budget film. It was on TV all the time when I was a little kid. And interestingly enough, like Matt from Quantum of Conscience, he's talked about this movie too. And it's weird how it's difficult to find on like streaming services. Like this is like a huge like Ron Howard movie that a lot of people know. You'd think it would just be like easily available for people. But hey Juan, good to see you. um oh, we got 20. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that mass production. Thanks. He's saying that there's 22 stars on the Paramount logo, which is like the master builder number. There's obviously a lot of Masonic symbolism. I don't even know if it's fair to call symbolism Masonic symbolism because it's like just the symbolism of the world script. And the Masons just are using it. They know about it, and they've been keeping it a secret for a long time. But now, the cat's out of the bag. Also, the X is symbolic of the North Pole too. I just wanted to bring that up because it's going to come into play a lot. And if you think about the islands I was showing you before, like the Central Islands, they make an X. Like the four rivers make an X. And then, of course, really interesting is the sequel to Cocoon. It's called The Return, and they're just straight up showing the blue beam. And this is like the central mountain, the vessel. These types of boats are usually like a vesica piscis shape as well, and that's the center shape. And then this is also a big Mandela effect. A lot of double O's have become conjoined here so that they make the vesica piscis in the center. And I'll be showing you guys that on a future video, and I've showed it in past pre-produced videos too if you're interested. I think there's a whole video on cocoons and pods and stuff if you're interested, but I'll be talking about that in a future live stream. But it's essentially, in my opinion, God pointing out the importance of the vesica piscis and what it means. So it essentially means a cocoon, among other things. We'll have to see what the other names are that have these vesica piscis. For instance, one is the well, I don't want to get too into it now. I've got a lot to cover. So there's always a lot of offshoots I can go down, but like I said, if you want to check it out, check out my cocoon video. So here's a Jurassic World. This was a huge movie that came out. Of course, here's the dome, and this is kind of like the Skull Mountain under the dome. So the mountain is also sometimes like a skull mountain, and the reason for that is because we've been living in like the land of the dead, essentially. So like King Kong lives on Skull Mountain, like the He-Man Castle Grayskull is like a giant skull, and then there's a bunch of other examples I'll show you guys. But we've been in like the land of the dead essentially, and then when the blue beam of Jesus returns, then we'll return to the world of the living. So right now we're in like a world of like death and decay and illness and that type of thing. And when Jesus returns, it becomes a world of immortality and health and strength and high spirit and all that magic. So here's the volcano erupting. This is just another poster for it, and they basically ride around in these little domes. Okay, yeah. So this is like another like dome symbolism, and they're inside the dome, and like even this part of it here is like a dome. But even more interesting in Jurassic World is this is the aviary for flying um, dinosaurs. Sorry, I was just checking out the chat here for a second. Right on. I guess there's some confusion about the master builder number. Yeah, I got that's not really what I'm going to be focusing on here. I'm not too familiar with that type of thing. But anyway, here's the dome in Jurassic World, and here I think this is like the Jurassic World video game, but you could see it more clearly that the dome is made up of hexagons, like the Beehive. So just keep that in mind because it's going to come up a lot. And also, there's like the pole sticking up from the center. This is like the blue beam. And then at the end of Jurassic World, they showcase this pyramid, which is like in the center of the park, and it's tough to make out. You guys can check it out on your own, but there's a blue beam shooting up from the center of this pyramid, and these are the main characters. And so this guy, Chris, can't even think of his name. Uh, anyway, it's like Chris Pratt. He trained these raptors in the beginning of the movie. So this raptor is actually named Blue, and then at the end of the movie, this raptor named Blue comes to save them. So this is like literally like the savior character, and I know that it's silly. I'm not saying that it's like good or anything, but you have the Blue savior character, and then Blue right here runs towards the pyramid that's shooting the blue beam out of it at the end of the movie. Then they kind of follow him, and he's running up here, and I think he actually goes off to the left, but it's running towards the pyramid with the blue beam at the end of the movie, and the other part might be some kind of magic spell or something. So here's Hunger Games Part Two. So I mean, she's Katniss. She's known for like being an archer, so that's like the blue beam. Also, like the blue beam, basically everything just boils down to this blue beam North Pole dome symbolism all the time. So like arrows, but also swords. Of course, the sword and the stone. Projectiles. Spears. They all can represent the blue beam. So she basically represents the blue beam character, and of course, these main characters also represent us. Going through our awakening process. So here she is. This is Donald Sutherland. He's like the Saturn type character, the controller. And whenever you see like a Saturn type character in these movies, they always have like this all-seeing eye, like a bunch of cameras to see what's going on. But it's like a cheap version of what God has, because God can just see all this stuff without needing any kind of like equipment or technology or anything. But it's all just symbolic of the all-seeing eye, basically. When you see all these cameras. And the name Donald also means the ruler of the world. And like Donald Trump, for instance, I talked about him. If you want to see more on that, check out my second live stream. And Donald Sutherland is also known for starring in the Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie, which is huge. So here at the end of the movie, she's it's been a long time since I saw this too, but she's like fed up with the whole system essentially. So she's trying to bring the system down by shooting this arrow up to the dome. And so here you see the dome, and then the storm is happening. So there's always a storm in these types of movies. And here you can see the hexagon pattern of the dome. And then she gets, I think this is her, she gets struck by lightning as she's shooting the arrow. So lightning is plasma essentially. So lightning often represents the blue beam and Jesus. And like, Jesus and Lucifer are both said to be like as fast as lightning essentially, because on Earth, their like life force or energy is literally like lightning or plasma. So she shoots this arrow up to the dome, and you can see the hexagons, and it breaks through the dome, and it creates the eclipse circle, the crown, the portal, and then the concentric circles come off of this area, and then the whole system goes down, and Saturn or the devil loses his all-seeing eye. And then here's like the map of the dome that they're looking at, and the dome comes down, then the whole world disappears essentially, and then he's shocked. Then you have this like blue beam symbolism shooting down on I think this is like her body down here. I can't really see though. But yeah, so I mean, looking up through the dome, all the hexagons are falling down. She's looking up. So this is like the rescue ship. This is like the mothership. This is like God the Father coming to rescue the Son, essentially, um, or us with Christ consciousness. And she gets pulled up by this you know machine. Forget what it's kind of called. It's like one of those games in an arcade where like a grabber game, whatever that's called. And then she's doing the Christ pose as she's being pulled up, so you can see she's doing the Christ pose here. And then this is also very similar to in the Matrix. So when Neo gets freed out of his robotic AI prison and dumped in the water here. So the water is representative of the central pillar. Yeah, the claw game. Thanks. So the water is usually representative of the central pillar, because the left pillar is fire and the right pillar is ice. So when they mix, that's what causes the storm. You have like the different temperatures, and then the ice melts into the water, and this is like the waterfall. This is why we always see, or almost always see, waterfalls when the North Pole Mountain is being shown to us. So he's essentially drowning in this water. He needs some help, and then here we see his, savior vessel again coming. This is like the mothership, and this is also the three lights. It's interesting because it's kind of like the tetragrammaton. I think it's like the tet, And this is something Jay talks about too. It's like the deadlights in the movie It. So that would be like a negative version, but this is like a positive version. And then the portal opens in the ship. So this is like the dark to light portal. And then like the claw game, the grabber, comes down. And this also has like the three lights, like the tet also. But then, you could also say this is like the kraken tentacles, but this is obviously for a good reason. Then Neo is elevated up through the portal from dark to light, and this is also similar to what happens at the end of Lord of the Rings. So these are kind of like kraken tentacles, like these smoke plumes, like in Ipet Goat 2, the smoke plumes. They're often used as kraken tentacles. It happens in Breaking Bad too. I've mentioned in previous videos. If you want to see like an awesome Breaking Bad breakdown, check out my I think it's called "Why the Mandela Effect Paints Things Black," Part 3. And the beginning of that has like a whole Breaking Bad segment, but I'll be doing like a live stream talking about Breaking Bad again too, because there's a lot going on there. But anyway, this is like the North Pole Mountain. Oh, hey, Jay Smith. Thanks, man. I'm glad you're here. um, yeah, they say we all float down here in it. Yeah, I definitely think that's heavily symbolic. And of course, that's made by Stephen King, who also made Under the Dome. So Stephen King is definitely one of the top, world scripters in the world. He's right up there with like, Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick and those guys. So yeah, this is the North Pole Mountain. It's also kind of like a volcano because it shoots the plasma beam up through it like an open mountain. So, you have the volcano symbolism, you have the kraken tentacle symbolism, and then here's the mountain. And then they're resting on top of the mountain after they've, completed their earthly, deeds, for like a heavenly cause, essentially, to save the world. And they're basically just waiting to be rescued, like, a lot of us are essentially. And here you see, when you see these like this like opening in the clouds, essentially this is kind of like the apex dome also, and then you have the three eagles, which are like the three lights that we saw in the Matrix. And other, like, there's often three, and you could see like a lot of old paintings too of the tetragrammaton, because it's like Yode Vave uh name, and it's usually like three circles for some reason. So I'm not 100% sure on all that yet, but you'll often see this like tetragrammaton three shape coming out of the apex dome. So anyway, you have the three eagles, and Gandalf's riding one of them, and he's of course the Christ character in this. There could be more than one Christ character because Aragorn is a Christ character too, but Gandalf is more like the spiritual, Holy Spirit Christ, and like Aragorn would be more like the physical world, like the Christ in us character. Same with like Frodo too. So the eagles come and pull them up off of this mountain, and this is basically the same thing that we just saw in the Matrix and the Hunger Games, and it's in a lot of things. All right, so going to Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla represents the CV essentially. He's the spiked ball that floats around like the sea mine exploding things. I talked about that a lot in previous videos. And he also represents the blue beam because the CV is essentially the seeds of the blue beam. It's like the seeds of that energy, or it's like it's basically the seeds of the world tree. Like the blue beam is also the world tree that comes up out of the center of the world, and you could think of the CV spiked balls as the seeds of that tree, like we saw in the fountain. And King Kong basically represents us. I mean, I know these are like cartoon characters essentially, but he's like the Christ consciousness returning to the world, and he's from Skull Mountain, and there's a lot going on in this movie. He actually gets like killed essentially, like his heart stops, then they have to defibrillate him and shock him back to life. So that's he's like being resurrected. And I talked about this too. I think it's in my mountain video. There's a lot of scenes from these Godzilla and King Kong movies in there. And of course, you have the fire and ice symbolism too. Although usually the fire would be on the left and the ice would be on the right, but in King Kong's perspective, it's correct. So it depends on which perspective you want to take. So in this movie, it begins with him waking up, and you'll often see Christ characters and characters that represent us waking up in these movies because we've been asleep, like Sleeping Beauty. And Beauty, the name Beauty actually represents the right pillar, so it's pretty. I think that's all actually on the nose symbolically because these people know what all this stuff is. So anyway, he wakes up and he's in like this containment facility, and this is like his friend, this little girl, and she's like the magical child, and she's trying to cheer him up because he's not happy being in this containment thing. So she made like this stuffed animal, And then he's like, saying hello to her, but he's not. She could tell that he's not happy. So he grabs a tree and he rips the branches off of it and he makes like a spear out of it. And then he throws the spear at the sky like this, and this is the blue beam coming out of the Christ character. And then the blue beam goes through the dome. This would be like the apex dome, and here you see again these hexagon patterns. Now, does the actual dome above us have this hexagon, pattern to it? I don't know. I haven't seen it, but all I could say is that we are constantly shown this, and it's at the very least heavily symbolic of like the beehive or just the dome itself. And you could also make these hexagons with up and down arrows, I think. So he's like yelling at it. Here you have like the concentric circles coming off of the dome. And yeah, so I thought I had this shot. So yeah, so you can see how they have like the up and down arrows. And then like on a smaller level, you can make those hexagons with the up and down arrows. So maybe that's what the dome actually looks like. But whatever it is, I mean, it seems to be like it's invisible, to the naked eye right now. So then it just says, Kong containment, Monarch outpost, Skull Island. So Monarch, of course, is a big symbol. This is, of course, referencing the butterfly, which is like evolution from the cocoon. Monarch is also like the MK Ultra, but that's also kind of like an evolution through like uh, the trauma-based mind control and stuff like that. And then Monarch is also symbolic of the king, of course. So the king is waking up essentially, and Jesus is of course the King of Kings. And here we have the Cabin in the Woods. This is a really interesting movie. Not a lot to say about this poster. I mean, it's interesting, but this one I think is like a fan made poster. But here they show the hexagon dome behind or around them, and then this is of course this lodge would be representative of the North Pole mountain or castle or tower, but it's a small building. So these are the controllers. At the start of the movie, they basically know everything. They're like the Saturn character. They're like the ones pulling the strings from behind the scenes, and they know about all the symbolism and everything. And they're drinking coffee because coffee is often used in these movies to represent black goo. I'll probably be talking about that more in the next live stream, but I just wanted to point that out here. So these are the main characters. Chris Hemsworth, who's the Thor character now. Um, they're talking to this like gas station attendant, and he's warning them not to go. But this guy is literally an actor, not just like an actor in the movie, but he's playing an actor in the movie. So he's just like warning them not to go, but he knows about all this stuff that's going to be happening at the cabin because it's all scripted. Hey, pushing buttons. Good to see you, man. Awesome. And take note too that Chris Hemsworth's bike here has the 88. Yeah, Jan, for sure. Yeah, the 88 is important. That'll come up in a second here. So he walks away. So this is when they essentially enter the mountain area where the cabin is, and this is hard to see a little, but this is like a bird flying, and this is their RV going into the cave in the mountain. And then the bird is here and it's flying, and then the bird hits something, and it hits this invisible dome. And then when it hits the invisible dome, you see the hexagon pattern again. And then they exit the cave. So they've gone through the mountain cave now, and they're on the other side. And then here we see the cameras for the all-seeing eye for the Saturn characters. Yeah, and today's 8/8. Actually, I was going to say happy Lionsgate Portal Day. But yeah, for sure. That's kind of funny too. I forgot about the 88 in Cabin in the Woods. So yeah, more of the all-seeing eye. And then here's the other scene with the dome. So these characters are trying to escape this area, but this the bridge they were going to take gave out, or there was some kind of blockage, so they couldn't get across. So they're in front of this ravine. And one of the things that has to happen in these movies a lot is somebody has to take a leap of faith. Although in this case, it doesn't turn out well, and I can show you why. So his bike with the 88, it also seems to have this like black spiked ball here. And I think that this is like symbolic of, he's like, it's like the black 88. We want to have like the white 88 without the black spiked ball. We want like the original, CV, not the V, coated or the V tattooed spike ball. So because he has this, because 88 is like the ultimate portal number, I think that's why it's used in Back to the Future. It's like infinity, the an O is a portal, so this is like, the double O portal, and then, there's 4 of them, so there's more to it. I'm not like 100% there yet, but I think this is why he fails in the leap of faith. Um, hey, Jared, good to see you. I guess Bridge to Terabithia has something like that. I haven't seen that, but I'll check it out. I've heard of it. So here, he's just talking to her, saying he's going to take this leap. This is him back with his motorcycle. Now he's driving. He's going over, flying through the air, and then, like the bird, he hits this dome too, and then he falls to his death, unfortunately, and she's screaming. And then you could see the hexagon pattern of the dome as he falls, and then he keeps going down and making noise because I think they're showing that it's like a sphere. And our dome could be a sphere too, if it's like a half dome under us as well. Oh, and once this happens, this character starts to realize, that there's something more going on here. So now that she's like, seeing this hexagon dome, she's like, "Hey, wait a minute, this world is like scripted. There's something weird going on here." Um, so this is Ready Player One. Of course, this is the dome symbolism with the eclipse as well. This is like the diamond ring of the eclipse, which it all symbolizes like the wedding, like the marriage to Jesus, essentially, or to the Antichrist, if you're going that way. And it also is the dome of our head, and you could see here too. They have like the same kind of eclipse, wedding ring symbolism on the side of his head as well. And here's another poster for it. You could see another blue beam symbolism, like his arm is going through the top of the dome here. And so these are like the characters in real life, and then these are like their avatars in the digital world. So this isn't exactly what I would say a positive message, but if you think of it as like their spirits, it is a positive message. So his like spirit is like the blue beam punching through the dome. So in this movie, this is the villain. They're about to set up a dome around this castle, and the company is IOI, but it's like 101, which we see a lot in all this symbolism. And there's a lot to say about that too. I'm sure, like the 88. I'm not 100% on there yet, but to me, this is like the twin pillars, the eyes, and then the O is like the central eclipse portal at the central pillar. So here, all this plasma is making this dome around this castle that they're at, and you can see it's a sphere, but from ground level, it's a dome. And then this is like the twin pillars, and this is like the central pillar mountain in the middle. And then you could see it's got hexagons also, so hexagon pattern to this dome as well. This is a Steven Spielberg movie. So here's the main character in front of the dome. So one thing that happens too is switching sides. It's like a mirror. It's like part of the mirror symbolism. So like this is the main girl hero character. I forget her name, but she infiltrates into the bad guys, and she's wearing like the bad guy outfit. So that happens too, where you'll see either the good guy wearing the bad outfit, like being an imposter on the bad guy side, or the villains wearing the good guy outfit and being an imposter on that side. So like in the TV series V, which is of course hugely symbolic. I've talked about it a little before, but like one of the good guys is dressed up in like the red and black of the bad guys because he has to infiltrate their side. And then vice versa, you'll often see like a bad guy dressed up in like yellow and blue to infiltrate on the good guys' side. Um, so she's while she's on the inside, she's able to start what's essentially the blue beam, and this blue beam charges up and then shoots straight up in the middle of the dome. It goes up to the dome, and then it crashes through the dome and brings the dome down. And here's the dome coming down. So again, with the blue beam in the middle of the dome bringing it down, this is what I think will happen in reality to our dome. Hey, Tiffany, good to see you. Thank you, I appreciate that. So yeah, you have the twin pillars. This is also like the spiral storm at the top where the apex dome is. So here's the new Alien movie, Alien Romulus. Um, this is like the alien kraken that, and it's also got like the tentacle that chokes people. So this is like the I can't breathe symbolism, and it's like the kraken takeover essentially. Here's another poster for it. So this is like the dome, And this is like, the apex dome essentially. And here, whenever you see like these fingers or hands, like outstretched fingers are usually symbolic of the tentacles as well. That's something I learned from Jay also. So here you have this guy is actually an android, and he's offering this pregnant woman a a V essentially. This is the V in his hand here, and it's literally like a black goo V, and this is the pregnant girl. I forget exactly why this is needed, but it's like they're trying to take like a precaution so she doesn't have like an alien baby, I think, or something like that. But she wants to take the black goo V, but then this other girl stops this guy's hand from giving her the injection. This girl, because she doesn't trust it. But then later, when the pregnant woman is on her own, she finds more of this black goo V and she gives it to herself, unfortunately, and things do not turn out well for her. So this is her. She's like crawling through this like ventilation shaft, which you'll see a lot in movies too, because it's like there's a lot of stuff about breathing and air supply in these movies. Because there's almost always some kind of character who can't breathe for various reasons. So then she's like hiding, from the alien, which is up here. She's looking up, and this is also like a tentacle here. I don't know if it's the alien tail. I think it might be like electrical tube or something, but it's like, whenever you see like black tubes and stuff, that's the tentacles. And then here's the hexagon barrier. It's not a dome, but it's representative of the dome because of these hexagons. And this is like the V needle too. And then this is the alien behind it. And the alien's teeth too are like the V needles. Um, hey, thank you. I appreciate that. So here's I think the newest Thor movie called Love and Thunder. So there's obviously a lot going on in this poster. This is like the blue beam in the center. Basically, you have the sword going up. Almost the three sparks are almost like that tetragrammaton shape. But then also you got like this is kind of like a dome here with the North Pole Mountain under it. You got the waterfalls. They're like on the North Pole Mountain here with the blue beam shooting up. And then this is like the Kraken villain essentially. And he looks like they have like a layering in front of him. So he's almost like he's outside of the dome. So this is kind of like the Kraken outside of the dome looking in, like we saw in the first image with the Leviathan. And then here, I don't know, like in the movie, I don't know what this represents, but when you see the large circle and the small circle, this is usually the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, which is the Star of Bethlehem, which is the star under which Jesus was alleged to be born. And then we had the Star of Bethlehem again at the end of 2020, and that's when the V was released. The one of the V's was released like literally on that day, and then the other one was released about a week before that. But I mean, just think about that symbolism, and how crazy that is. Like they're literally, declaring that the V, the Antichrist. So here's another really crazy symbol or a poster for this Thor: Love and Thunder movie. So here you have the split mountain for the North Pole, and this is why the letter M also symbolizes the mountain, especially the North Pole Mountain. And when you see like two M's, it's like Mount Meru essentially. So he's standing up here like the blue beam, and then the lightning. This is the plasma, and the blue beam is essentially plasma. So this is the blue beam shooting up from the split mountain at the North Pole. And then there's other stuff too with the Saturn rings. This is kind of like a dome symbolism as well. Like this is like the dome over the mountain again right here. But of course it's like Saturn. So, I'm not saying that, there's a lot of truth in these things, but Hollywood ultimately is pushing an evil agenda too, as well. Just to keep that in mind. Hey, Andy, good to see you. No notification. Yeah, well, I think from the very start, my channel was, shadowed. If you guys are familiar with Moneybags 73, definitely check his channel out if you guys aren't aware of him. He's like one of the bigger Mandela Effect channels. So my original videos were all about the Mandela Effect, and I put Mandela Effect in a lot of the titles and in the keywords and things like that. And the first time he saw me or heard of me was when I first went on Brian Staveley's show. And obviously check out Brian too. I've mentioned him quite a bit. Um, but that was the first time Moneybags ever had heard of me, and I was on my like 12th or 13th video or something at that time, and he checks the internet or YouTube like daily, or at least he was at the time, for new Mandela effect content. And like, so none of my stuff like ever comes up in like any of those searches or anything like that. And I know like a lot of truth channels have the same thing. So, the only way that this content gets out is if you guys, spread the word. So I appreciate your help with that. So in this movie, Thor, Love and Thunder, again, we see them flying through the hexagon dome. These in all the Marvel movies, they have these hexagon spheres essentially over the planets, because they're obviously going to show you planets in these movies, but it's symbolic of the dome over in the sky. So they're looking up at that. Thanks, I appreciate that. So I think this is the same movie. This character is Idris Elba, the actor, and this is like the sword and the stone in the central North Pole Mountain. And here you have the concentric circles. And then this is like the dome around him, and then this is like all the gears and stuff. Like if you see some of those old paintings or sketches of the earth, they kind of describe it as like a mechanical world, and that actually might even be what it's like on the outside. I don't know, obviously. But I'm just saying, more of that symbolism. But at the very least, you have the sword and the stone, North Pole Mountain, concentric circles, and dome symbolism. And I think when he puts the sword in there, it creates a dome again around this mountain here. It's been a while since I saw this movie too, so I kind of forget exactly what's going on. But you can see the dome going up to protect this building, which is essentially the North Pole Tower again with the dome over it. So here's Wonder Woman again. You could see the fire and ice symbolism again, and they're making it like wings here. There's a lot in these posters to get into. I kind of want to keep it focused on just the topics of this presentation. And this poster shows whenever you see like a sword going into the ground, straight up and down, this is like sword in the stone symbolism. Sorry, I need to get a drink of water. Okay. So yeah, this whenever you see this, just think of the sword and the stone symbolism, and it's usually a character like this that represents like Christ, or Christ returning to the world. She actually even shoots the blue beam at the end of this movie to defeat the villain, but it's inverted because she's actually up in the sky and she shoots it down onto him. Here's another poster. So this is like the sparks that we talked about this before too. It's like the sparking in our third eye or pineal gland, because the crystals in our pineal gland actually do give off sparks, and when they're under pressure, they're called piezoelectric crystals, and it's like the same crystals that are in Bic lighters. So when you put pressure on it, it creates sparks to create the fire. And then that's the fire that we have to keep fanning the flame of in order to keep evolving and getting closer to God. And then you could also see her head is her dome, and like the sword is going through the dome, symbolically, obviously. So I think this is the start of the movie where she's a little kid, and she's essentially living in paradise. When you see like this kind of a setting, it's symbolic of paradise. So she starts off on this paradise island. um, and I think, yeah, this is her talking to her mother, and she's asking her mother, I think, like, why the rest of the world can't see this island, like how we're cut off from the Garden of Eden, essentially. And her mother explains that Zeus is, and I think Zeus is essentially a Christ figure as well. Zeus shot this beam down and onto the North Pole Mountain here through the clouds, like the apex dome, and then that beam created this dome over the mountain, and then it was like surrounded with like a mist, and the island like literally disappears from view from anyone else. So it's kind of like how we can't see or perceive what's actually at the North Pole right now. So this is the movie Knowing. I've talked about this before too. It's by the same guy who made Dark City, among other things. So he obviously knows what's up. Nicolas Cage also lost the H in his name. I don't want to get too into that now, but it's another big Mandela effect. His name used to just be Nicholas, like normal Nicholas with an H. And of course, you got the eclipse symbolism here, and here too. And then it's like fire and ice. This is his son's room, and his room is like a dome. And this is the alien, but the alien is really like an angel. And the angel came. This is like a dream that the kid is having, and or a vision. And this angel is giving him a vision through this like circular portal under the dome. And here you can see too. This is like the bull horns, which is symbolic of the apex dome. So, like, if this were the dome over us, the apex dome would be like an inverted dome at the top. So that's why the bull horns are generally symbolic of that. And, I obviously don't know exactly what's going on there, but what I think is going on there is that paradise or the Garden of Eden is inside of this area, but it's surrounded by the kraken plasma. So that's why the villains of this world worship this area because they're worshiping that kraken plasma. They're not worshiping God inside of the, paradise area. That's just my thoughts on it for now. It's subject to change, but from what I've seen, a lot of things make sense with that. And I'll be showing you guys a ton of stuff, relating to that. So he's basically showing him how the world's going to burn in like Armageddon, essentially. And you'll also see houses or temples burning down in these movies because it's like the phoenix symbolism. This is also like the chalkboard and iPet goat too. So our house has to burn down, but then we rise up like the phoenix from the ashes. So he's watching that. Um, so here we go with the Sonic movies again. You got the eclipse ring. Sonic represents the blue beam with the plasma. Jim Carrey, the JC, is cast as the Antichrist. He's Dr. Robotnik, and he's basically the Kraken villain with the red and black symbolism, and he controls this drone army. So he basically has like the hive mind army of the dead that's after Sonic, who is the blue beam. And then of course, the eclipse, and he's going through the dome here too, like the blue beam, but it's kind of like inverted, although you could also see it as the apex dome. You got the Needle Building here. This is literally called the Needle Building in San Francisco. It has like an official name too. It's like some kind of, I think it's the Trans-American Pyramid Building, but it's also known as the Needle Building, and it appears in a lot of these movies because of that symbolism. So Sonic was a Paramount movie, yeah. And when they did the Paramount intro, they actually replaced the stars with these eclipses or crown portals or however you want to see them. But what's interesting is, are they actually, is it just like some fun little gimmick, or are they actually showing us that, these eclipse portals are they actually, related to the stars? And I think they are, and the Ezekiel wheels as well. So when the Sonic movie starts, he's basically in paradise. This is where he lives. It's you got the clouds around it, like the mist. There's mist on the island. You got the waterfalls, and it's like the green island, like the Emerald City, and he's racing around this island because he's the blue beam, as you can see. And see, this is like the start of the movie. So he's racing around, and here you can see the dome symbolism. So they don't always show things exactly the way they're going to be. So, like in my opinion, the blue beam will start down here in the underworld and then shoot up through the dome like this. So it would go through and break through the dome right up here in the center where the apex dome would be. So when he's running around, he runs over the dome here. And then after he runs over the dome, it crumbles right in that spot where the blue beam would destroy it. So they put the blue beam over here on the side instead of going down to up, but it's the same exact symbolism. They can't show the same thing every time, or else even like normies, would catch on. Like a normie would be like, why does every movie have like a dome with a blue beam shooting through it and a kraken? But I mean, essentially those things are in every movie, but they're usually veiled or inverted, or they have things switched around. It's actually really really clever, but it's also there for us to discover, like we're doing right now. So here's another, or here's the Sonic 2 poster, a lot of the same symbolism. This is a comparison between the Sonic another Sonic 2 poster and the Sonic 2 video game. And if you'll notice, he has the blue sleeves here, but he doesn't have the blue sleeves here because, in my opinion, this is a Mandela effect. And because he represents the CV, I think I have some more images. Let me see. This is also like the crack in the dome at the top. There's a lot to get into in these, and also here, of course, you have the pyramid with the beam shooting up. It's not a blue beam, but this is the beam coming up, and then the waterfall. So it's really just endless with the symbolism. So here's the first Sonic the Hedgehog cover, and I was actually talking about this with Blue Pac-Man on Brian's channel, and he mentioned that it's interesting too how I was saying that how he represents the CV, and then his arms are literally shaped like a CV, and it's even like kind of like COV, like cove. But that's interesting too. And then another channel who I highly recommend is Jacobian. If you guys are familiar with him or aren't familiar with him, I definitely recommend checking his channel out. Unfortunately, I don't think he makes any new content for a while anyway. But he's got some really awesome stuff, and I learned a lot from his channel for sure. And one of the things that I heard him talking about was this change, and he was saying that the reason that he thinks it changed was because Sonic wags his finger, like saying like no. Essentially, that's like Sonic's big move, especially in these old games. And he's like got the sleeves rolled up, so he's like the CV, which is God's gift to us, and he's basically saying don't roll up your sleeves. So I mean, it's pretty intense. I could see people maybe not agreeing with that, but I definitely see it. And this one's like the funniest one. So like really like think about like the animators of this cover. You have like this highly detailed, really awesome cover for this video game, and it looks like as Brian Stavely put it, it looks like he's just got like a beer belly. And oh hey, pushing. Actually, let me see if I could do this. Uh, just 1 second. Yeah, pushing. If you don't mind, could you like link people to Jacobian's channel? I just modded you there. Thanks, buddy. um, yeah, so like as Brian was saying, it looks like he's got like a beer belly or a beer gut or something. Like this looks like so ridiculous. It looks like he's wearing like blue pants, and then he has like some weird, hat on or something. But like they just wouldn't they wouldn't animate it this way. It looks ridiculous. It looks like he has like a fat belly with bare arms. Like it's just not the way it used to be. It used to be like this with the blue arms. I mean, if he's got bare arms, why does he have blue arms in the movies? And I just thought this was interesting too, because there's a lot of CV symbolism in this movie too, and there's a lot going on in this movie too. But I always thought it was weird how his arm is like a V also, and then his right arm makes like a C. It's kind of strange. And I was kind of tripped up when I was talking about this the previous time. So this is the main villain. His name is Drax, and it's like Dracula essentially. And then his main henchman is Jaws. And when he does have the outstretched arms like this with the fingers, that is like the kraken symbolism. But he also becomes he starts off as a bad guy, and he actually dresses up like a clown too, which is interesting if you think about um, the Nephilim looked like clowns thing, like what's his name? Understanding Conspiracy talks about. So like they have this huge giant guy dressed up like a clown in this movie. I assume people know about that, but maybe they don't. But then he becomes a good character once he's introduced to Dolly, and the name Dolly is short for Dorothy, which means a gift from God. And then she no longer has the braces, so it's like God's gift to us is no longer being held back. And then now this actor who played Jaws has like a huge protruding bump on his forehead where his third eye would be, or like the symbolism of the third eye. So I talked about that in a previous live stream and in previous videos too. But it's just there's just a lot of interesting stuff going on there. But getting back to oh, thanks, Emerald Boy, I appreciate that. Yeah. Um, so going back to the Sonic 2 movie, you'll see chess in a lot of these movies, and this is Jim Carrey, the Robotnik character. So he's essentially playing chess with himself because he's stranded on this planet, and here's of course the mirror duality symbol, but also the chess symbolism. And he's trapped on this mushroom planet. And interestingly enough, this person um, I have their name written somewhere on here, but someone commented the other day about, actually I think it was yesterday, about this red and white mushroom symbolism, and it's really interesting. Let me see if I so Robotnik is setting up a communication tower essentially on top of this mushroom. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. So sea salad was the commenter's name or handle. And I never heard about this, but this fly agaric symbolism is actually really interesting with this mushroom, and I think that it definitely comes into play in this Sonic movie here. So the appearance of the fly agaric, which is the name of this mushroom, it has another name too. But it's got like the red cap and white dots. It's seen as a symbol of spiritual journey. The red is like the liveliness of spirit, and the white is like the connection to the spiritual world. And I see that too. See, I thought for a while that red and white together are like the good chaos that helps us, elevate essentially. So you could see if you think about the twin pillars in terms of black and white. Yeah, the Amanita muscaria is the other name for, the mushroom. Thank you, Jan. Sorry, my mouth is, like, really dry. Hold on one second. Having a tough time talking today. Um, yeah, going back to, like, just thinking about, like, the twin pillars, so if you think about them in black and white symbolism, the right pillar would be white and the left pillar would be, black, and then the right pillar would also be the spiritual pillar. So here you have, like, the white symbolizing the spiritual world, and then if you think about the pillars in terms of the color wheel, the left pillar would be the red pillar. So here's the red, and it's a liveliness of spirit. And the left pillar, while we don't want to be ruled by our left pillar. Oh, pushing. I think it's because you're spelling it wrong. It's a JAQ, but Emerald Boar I think already put in a link there. But no worries, man. But yeah, it's with a Q, not a C, I think. Um, but yeah, the red pillar, while we don't want to be ruled by our left pillar, we also don't want to just completely discard it either, because that's what gives us it's what makes us interesting. It's what makes us, fighters and warriors and stuff like that in a good way. So here's just more stuff on the flag, Eric, for anyone who's interested and wants to maybe pause the screen or check it out for themselves. So here's Dr. Robotnik. Oh, I did want to say, yeah, in the Mayan culture, they even call it the light of the earth. So again, it's like that mushroom. They're basically, this is kind of like the blue beam. Obviously, it's not blue, but this is like the blue beam shooting up under the dome, in my opinion. It's like everything relates to this same symbolism. So here's Robotnik with his device, and now he has a quill from Sonic. So he's about to make the blue beam on top of this mushroom, but he's the Antichrist, Kraken character, so he can't make the blue beam himself. But what he does have is a part of Sonic who represents the CV, which are the seeds of the blue beam or the world tree. So he takes this quill of Sonic, which is like the needle also, but this is like the good needle, not the black goo needle. This is like, God's needle that injects us with truth and spiritual evolution. And he plugs it into this, you know, uh, communication device, and you could see the blue plasma coming off of it, and then the blue plasma rises up this communication tower and then shoots up straight into the sky off the top of this mushroom, which also represents, spiritual journey and enlightenment and the light of the world. And then the blue beam explodes and shoots up straight up into the sky, and it literally makes this dome over it as well. So here again, the blue beam shooting right through the dome, then it gets bigger. I mean, it's really just over the top symbolism. I mean, like once you like recognize this, you'll just see it everywhere, and it's just mind blowing. It like I don't see how things could be any other way, because why would all this symbolism exist in the first place? So here's the original Superman movie, and this is essentially too like the blue beam here. I assume it's like his trail when he's flying. I don't even really know what they're trying to show here, but this is like the chakra ladder. Um, you have the lower colors at like the reddish colors at the bottom, and then the blue colors at the top. Um, so I found that interesting. And then when the movie starts, they have the fire and ice symbolism. So this is like the sun of Krypton, I guess, and then this is Krypton behind it. But this is really just showing the fire and ice coming together. And then this fortress is where Superman's father and other people are. And again, here we have the dome, and inside of this dome, they're about to exile these, Antichrist characters, and you see the beam shooting up, and then the dome starts to open, and you have again the dome opening when the blue beam shoots up, and they even have the blue beam shoot up right through it. Uh, I hope I didn't go through those photos too fast, but I'll do it like a little slower here. So the dome opens up like this. I mean, and then you have, of course, the concentric circles. So this would be like the North Pole Mountain, and they're in this case they're representative of like the Black Rock, the North Pole Mountain, because that's where essentially the devil has been ruling the world from, before Christ returns. So they even have it peek up over the dome, and the dome fully opens, and you have this blue beam shooting up with no dome. And then when they send baby Superman, to Earth to be saved, they put him inside of this white spiked ball. And this is like it's like crystals, also like the crystal cave symbolism inside the third eye. But also it's like the CV. So here's the mother and father, and then he even puts these crystals in the ship with Superman, and it's so that Superman will be able to communicate with his dead or spiritual father. So he's essentially, the God character. And then Superman, when he's in his Fortress of Solitude, which is his crystal cave, which is literally at the North Pole, he's able to use these crystals to communicate with his spiritually dead father or God. So he's being put into this CV spiked ball, and then the spiked ball rises, and then you see the spiked ball rising, and it literally it goes through the dome again. So here it is breaking the glass of the dome, and then the glass comes down, and then when it bursts through the dome, it creates all these sparks, like the sparking in the third eye, which is what these CV, microscopic seeds do to us. In addition to the all the pressure that we're under from being inside the dome as well. Like the pressure keeps rising in this world until the blue beam finally will erupt and take away the dome and depressurize the earth. So just checking out the chat. When you do the meditation, yeah, I've heard about that, about the meditation, squeezing the spinal fluid up to that area. I don't know about that. I feel like I've had that happen just kind of naturally a bunch of times. I don't know if you can like force it to happen, but maybe you can. I don't. That's not something I really know about, but I have heard about that. So here's Titanic. One of the biggest movies of all time. This is like the North Pole pyramid symbolism. Of course, Jack is like the right pillar name. I don't want to get too into like the rose stuff. Uh, so here, they both make the Christ pose at the front of this ship, also. But here, like a lot of people might not remember this, but the ship has a dome, and then when the water comes, it literally breaks through the dome. So this is like the waters above crashing through the dome. And then on the top of the dome is the apex dome. So even in a movie like Titanic, they're showing you this symbolism. I don't want to go through these photos too fast. Sometimes the video might skip a little bit. But here also the normies on this ship are essentially jumping and falling off. So that's another thing you'll see in these movies too, is like spiritually fallen people falling. That's a consistent thing. If you're aware of it, you'll see it in a lot of things where like normies are like jumping off of something or falling off of something. This also goes back to the event that happened in New York, uh, with people falling out of the tower, and that even connects really interestingly to a Mandela effect. But I'll get into that in the future. I've talked about it in the past too. So here's Harry Potter. Hey, Four Jacks, good to see you. Um, so here we have the pyramid at the bottom again. This is like the same thing as the Titanic ship that we just saw, and then here's the North Pole Castle Mountain, Hogwarts Castle. So this is at the end of the second to last movie. You can't really see it, but this is like the North Pole Island right here. And then Voldemort basically goes to this island, and this is the grave of Dumbledore, who is like the god character. So again, with the dead or spiritual god figure in the movie, and Voldemort, cracks open the top of his tomb, and then he goes into the tomb to get this wand because Dumbledore had the Elder Wand, and the Elder Wand is essentially the blue beam. So now the Kraken Antichrist character has stolen the blue beam. This also happens, like I showed you guys in the beginning of Captain America. The Red Skull character literally steals blue light from under the World Tree at the beginning of the movie. Like that, so the Antichrist is often trying to steal and use the power of the blue beam. So then once he gets the blue beam, he shoots it up into the sky, and you could see the plasma going up in this North Pole mountain, and this is like the forest symbolism, like the garden. Um, and then he shoots it straight up, and this is like the apex dome in the center of the clouds in the sky. And this is how this movie ends, and it's also how the last movie begins. They show this scene twice because you know not just to reiterate what happened in the previous movies, because that's actually not something that they do in the Harry Potter movies. They did it because this symbolism is so powerful that they wanted to repeat it. And also they probably love having the Antichrist have control of the blue beam, so these are like the teachers in Hogwarts. They put up a dome to protect the the kids and everyone inside at this North Pole castle. So here we have like the Kraken Antichrist character outside of this dome, and he's shooting the dome with the blue beam. Now, the blue beam is what brings the dome down, but it doesn't come from the outside in our world. It comes from the center on the inside to bring it down. But they inverted things a little because he's like the Antichrist character. So he's shooting the blue beam at the dome. Sorry, one second. So he's shooting the blue beam at the dome to take it down from the outside, and this is like the Kraken with the army of the dead, or like they're obviously alive, but they're the spiritually dead, and they're all wearing black and all that. Um, and also, this is like the camp of the saints in here, in my opinion, because whenever you see like a group of like heroes, especially heroes with like some kind of superpowers or special abilities, um, and they're being protected in an area, and then you have like the Kraken army of the undead essentially attacking them from the outside. This is like the battle of Gog and Magog in the Bible, attacking the camp of the saints essentially, and they're trying to get into this dome. So what I think will happen too is when the giant dome around the earth comes down, when the blue beam goes up, I think there's going to be like a smaller dome that goes around the North Pole area, and that's going to be essentially the um, Camp of the Saints, and the Kraken that has taken over the rest of the world is going to try to get into that North Pole area too. That's just my going theory. And here they show Voldemort as the Kraken with all these tentacles. This is like his robe, but he's using some kind of magic to make his robe move around like this. You see, where it's like tentacles, and he's even like under a dome type of archway. But then he's got like hairy hair tied up with the tentacles, and they're wrapped around his neck. This is like the "I can't breathe" symbolism. And if you're aware of that too, you'll often see characters literally say "I can't breathe" in these movies, and you'll also often see characters say something like "There's a storm coming." That's a very common thing to hear because that's like a huge, piece of the world script. The storm, difficulty breathing, the kraken tentacles. So here he is again with the tentacles, and of course, there, he's got a lot of other symbolism too. But it's like the Christ character versus the Antichrist character. Uh, so here we have Avengers: Infinity War. Thanos, he's like the God character essentially, but things are inverted as well. You have the Christ symbolism. He's going through the dome like the blue beam, and there's a lot too. This is like the North Pole Mountain. This is like the ship in the Titanic, or the vessels or boats in the Harry Potter poster. It's all the same symbolism. So here, this is like the Camp of the Saints too. This is Wakanda, and they put up a dome over this area. Sorry about that. Excuse me. To protect this area. So here's the dome protecting essentially the Camp of the Saints. You have like a bunch of like super powered heroes under the dome, and this is like the kraken tentacles. There's like a bunch of missiles and things that shoot this dome. So that's the kraken tentacles hitting the dome essentially. And oh, so I think I was just saying like this is also the same movie that has this forge, Ezekiel wheel where Thor makes his new weapon. And this is also the movie where Thanos sacrifices his daughter. You could also see this as God sacrificing his son, like Jesus, where she's falling or Christ is falling, and then it's like the blue beam going down essentially. And then you have the twin pillars. I mean, this is like so crazy. This is all in the same movie with the dome and the Kraken attacking it. And then after he makes this sacrifice, this is kind of like the blue beam shooting up between the twin pillars into like the apex dome again. But I mean, this is, I mean, it's just so crazy. Like, I don't know how anyone could even watch this movie and not think this is weird. Yeah, there's a lot of negative things you can see in these things too. I'm trying to stick with the positive as much as I can, but yeah, I definitely don't want to ignore anything that's like negative because these movies are satanic and inverted, and they're putting black magic spells on people and stuff like that. They basically want, like, the whole point is to get as many people as possible to have gotten that V or to keep or to get the V, and I think that's what all this black magic has done. And, it got people to just not care about that and to stick anything into their arm without knowing about it or caring. They just want to get like the free donut or the free burger and fries or whatever. So this is the Hobbit movie. Of course, you could see here. You got the dome, you got the kneeling, you got the sword in the stone. This also looks like a Mandela effect to me. Like, I don't know why this bee would be smaller. There's something weird going on here, but I'm not sure 100%. So here you have the mountain, of course. Yeah, proud to be a pure blood. Yeah, me too. So you have this is the Lonely Mountain, which is the North Pole mountain in this story. And at the end of the story, there's a huge war that's fought around this North Pole mountain. So there isn't like a dome over it that we can see, but they do have these two armies that attack essentially the good characters at the North Pole. And this character's name is Azog, and this character's name is Balg. So like, Azog and Balg, it's a lot like Gog and Magog to me. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but it's like two giants essentially leading the army of the undead against the camp of the saints, basically at the North Pole. Yeah, I'll see you guys at the camp, hopefully soon. So this is actually gets really interesting too. So this is the Sauron character in the Hobbit movies, but they originally call him the Necromancer because he can bring people back from the dead. So people have this theory that these characters are actually dead. Like this whole army is like an army of the dead that was risen by the Necromancer, and the reason that that's uh, possible is because this is Frodo's, or sorry, Bilbo's sword Sting, which we've talked about, and it glows blue whenever there are orcs or goblins around. And they specifically show in the first movie when a goblin or an orc is killed around him, the sword loses its blue shine. So it doesn't shine when there's a dead orc or goblin near him, only when it's a living orc or goblin. And then in these Hobbit movies, when this battle is going on and when he's around these types of orcs and goblins, his sword doesn't glow. So you could either say it's a mistake on the part of the filmmakers where they forgot to make his sword glow, which I find highly unlikely if you consider the amount of detail that they've put into these movies. I think that they're actually tipping us off that this is actually like a zombie army, but it's like, heavily veiled. It's but people have you can look it up. People have been talking about that. It's actually really interesting because it's essentially the Kraken army of the undead that's attacking the camp of the saints. And again, speaking of the army of the dead, you have this movie. Here we got the dome symbolism, the crystals, a ton of stuff, the atom bomb. I've talked about this before too. So Las Vegas is symbolic of the North Pole, and it's difficult to see, but here you have like the zombie army that's going to be invading. And I'm not saying Las Vegas is full of saints, but it's symbolic of the North Pole, which is the camp of the saints. So here you have like army of the dead, encircling and invading the camp of the saints in this movie as well. And they also filmed this during the Pan event, which is ridiculous. And it also goes into the whole empty city symbolism because they filmed this when Las Vegas was empty. So it's like a typical zombie movie where cities are empty, but Las Vegas is like never empty unless there's like a Pan event. Um, but you'll see empty cities in a lot of these movies too, like Vanilla Sky, Devil's Advocate. There's a lot. I've mentioned those in the past too. I think in the last live stream actually. But that's just another piece of the world script symbolism, and that symbol came true. So we did end up seeing the empty cities in 2020 and 2021. So you know, I think that goes to show you that a lot of this symbolism either has come true or will be coming true very soon. Oh, someone's asking why is Las Vegas symbolic of the North Pole? I've talked about that a lot in previous live streams, so I would definitely just suggest checking those out. But just to be real quick, here you have the black pyramid with the blue beam shooting up, and then right next to it, there's a casino named Excalibur because the blue beam is the sword in the stone, which is Excalibur. So here's also Excalibur, the blue beam, shooting up through the dome. You have two here. Both of these characters are Christ characters, and then he has to basically sacrifice himself and die so that this Christ character can, rise up and become a more, complete uh, version of a Christ character. Essentially, there's a better way to put that. There's just a lot, to talk about here, and this is like the Kraken. So I think I have more of this, but he's essentially a representative of the V. That's why Darth Maul doesn't really have a character. Um, he's originally red, but his head is tattooed black, and his head also has like devil horn spikes on it. So he was originally like a red spiked ball, but then he tattooed black over the red spiked ball, which is the V. So here we're going to have the Kraken army attacking the camp of the Saints again. This is like the Gungans coming out of the mist. So here we have like the mist representative of the North Pole. Um, oh yeah. I actually I never noticed that inverted cross either. Yeah, so good call on Jan's part here. This is like the black inverted cross, and that's definitely heavily symbolic. It's right over the third eye area too. So here we have the blue beams. They go up and make the dome, or there's several domes, and you can see that even though these domes are plasma, they have the hexagon pattern like we saw many times before. Yeah, I mean, so someone saying that I'm reaching about something. I mean, most of the world isn't going to be able to see this, so I'm just showing you what it is, and you can take it or leave it, really. So here's the Kraken army. This is essentially like the hive mind robot army, like Robotnik has in the Sonic movies. Um, they're blasting at these domes. So this is like what we saw in the Avengers movie, where the dome is being hit from the outside by essentially, Kraken tentacles, like the smoke plumes, but the Kraken can't get into the domes. But then they do, they're able to walk through the dome. And then, so let's see, just trying to see what I put here. Okay, so in this scene, they're breaking the glass. This happens a lot. This is also symbolic of the firmament breaking. And then you have the good characters with Natalie Portman, and she's actually in a ton of these world script movies. So they're on the outside, and then this guy, he says, he tells everyone to get their Ascension guns. So with their Ascension guns, they shoot them straight up into the air, and then they literally rise up through the top of this dome with their Ascension guns. So that's all purposeful, symbolic, whether you see it or not. So here, of course, they have the fight at the blue beams. Here's Maul, representative of the V. He's got the spiked head here. Like I said, that's why he like has like no dialogue, because his character is representative of an object essentially. And this happens a lot in movies and TV shows and stuff where a character doesn't really have many lines, and it's because they represent something. They don't represent like a person. It's like the shark in the S Squad movie. I don't want to say that word, but I've talked about it before. But he represents the CV, so he doesn't really have too many lines. And it's like the twins in Breaking Bad, if you're familiar with them. They represent the Twin Towers, so they don't have any hardly any lines either. And they actually fall in the same exact scene in Breaking Bad. And I mentioned that earlier. I have a bunch of stuff on Breaking Bad. If you want to check out my Mandela Effect Paints Things Black Part 3 video, I think that's the one that has. There's like a 7 or 8 minute segment on Breaking Bad and how it shows the world script. So if you think of these lightsabers as pillars, um, think of like the three pillars. So these two Christ characters have the Christ colors. So this would be like the right pillar, the green. This would be the central pillar, the blue, and then Maul would have the red pillar, which is the left. And since he's representative of the V, which is the tattooed black over the spiked ball, he has like a red pillar takeover. So that's why he has two red pillars. This is like so if this was the right pillar before I got taken over, you can consider it like we've talked about, like the left pillar is the wolf and the right pillar is the lamb, and the left pillar wants to murder the right pillar and take it over as the imposter, and so that you'd have two left pillars at that point. So that's why he has two red pillars. And here we see this is the abyss, the bottomless pit, and this is the like the wise, um I don't want to say Holy Spirit, but like the teacher Christ character dying so that the younger Christ character can rise up, like the Phoenix and take over. So here we have the Matrix movies. These are out of order. This is the second movie. This is the third movie. Um, here you see like the dome symbolism. There's not a whole lot. I mean, you got the storm symbolism in these, and when you see like an X like this, like four pieces. This is like North Pole symbolism, but there's not a whole lot in these posters from what I see. I mean, you could even say that he's kind of like the pyramid, pose here. But anyway, what I wanted to get to is this is like the attack on the camp of the saints again. So at the end of the third Matrix movie, they're literally in this area called Zion, and Zion is covered by a dome, like a huge dome, and they're in like these mechanical suits ready to fight the kraken that's coming in through the dome. And in the middle of this dome, and here's more domes, they have a blue beam shooting up right into the center, which is really just over the top if you think about it. And then here's the kraken army coming in from the outside. They're drilling in through the top of the dome, and here's the drill falling. So you have like the kraken falling, and then the Christ blue beam rising. So that's where that symbolism comes into play, because Christ goes up and the Kraken goes down. So here's all the spiked balls and things. You have the when you see these black spikes, it's the V and the Kraken symbolism. Has the blue beam shooting up. So now they've made this hole in the dome. So now the literal Kraken robots can come in through this hole. And here they're coming in through this like spiral portal essentially. And when they come in, the good guys are all shooting them. And here you see all the tentacles and stuff on the ground from the dead ones or the defeated ones. I mean, it's just a hive mind, robot army like we saw in Star Wars and in Sonic and all that. Here they are again. They literally all look like mini krakens essentially. And this shot's really crazy because you have the blue beam shooting up, and then this is like the hand or the fingers of the kraken coming out, like the large tentacles. And it looks just like I was saying, like you have the smoke tentacles in iPet Goat too. So this is the dome here. What happened was some UFOs that are shaped like needle tips dropped bombs on this dome, and so inside of the dome now it's like the kraken attack into the camp of the saints essentially. And then here they're showing it again, so you have like the city, which is representative of the world, or you could also see it as like the central North Pole. And then you have the kraken coming out again like a dome. It's like making a dome shape and like fingers going after the city. And this is also kind of like the shedding type of thing. So like one person gets the V, but then they shed the kraken onto other people, that type of thing. I wouldn't worry about that though, because I think if we're spiritually elevated enough, any pieces of kraken or whatever was in the V that we get from shedding, I think that's all part of our evolution, and it's necessary as long as we have the light to overcome the darkness. So here's the blue beam again, shooting up in the Kraken army. All right, so in this anime Naruto, I'll talk about the show Naruto a lot because it's got a ton of symbolism in it. This is also a Mandela effect. The R wasn't long like this, where it goes below the title. The R, like this, was all just level. And these extended legs to R's is something that I'll show you guys a lot. Interestingly enough, he's the Christ character, but it's almost like the Kraken hand thing. And of course, they, like I said, they invert things a lot. So this is the main village that Naruto lives in. It's called Konoha, and it's about to be invaded by the Kraken. So this is like the main villain of this group of villains that they've been like contending with for a long time. And his name is actually Pain. And what's interesting here too is, aside from this woman, these are all dead bodies, and the real Pain is somewhere else, and he's able to control these dead bodies. Like it's the army of the dead again, and they have like the red and black, uniforms, and they're saying the Hidden Leaf Village, which is Konoha, it's protected by this dome, and he's saying it's surrounded by a spherical barrier, but of course it's the dome. And then she's saying anyone who enters without permission is detected immediately. So their plan is to confuse the enemy, which is exactly what the Kraken's plan is for us, to keep us confused and unsure about, even the world we live in as much as possible. Um, so he's saying that they'll confuse the enemy by not giving them an accurate count. So what they do is they shoot one of them up into the dome, and then it goes in through the dome, and then in here these like ninjas who have like telepathic abilities, they're able to sense that somebody came in through the dome, and here you have like the concentric circles. And there's obviously a lot going on here. I mean, this is kind of like the tetragrammaton and Star of David type symbolism. It's also just like fire and ice too. So when this one character goes in, it summons the other ones into the dome. So they think there's only one intruder, but there's actually like six intruders, or seven really, with the woman too. Um, and then they all fan out, and this is like the Kraken tentacles. And what's interesting too is these dead bodies, they're all like the dead bodies of previously good ninjas, and they all have different abilities. And one of them, I think this one, has the ability to like summon all these mythical creatures and stuff. And that's like something that like Jay Dreamers talks about too, because when the dome comes down, there's likely, aside from the main, Kraken Leviathan, there's likely a bunch of other mythical creatures and things that are going to come in and enter the world also. And that's what this character symbolizes and does. And then this one basically represents the programmable matter, because he can become like any weapon that he wants. The weapons just kind of like form, like he doesn't carry the weapons around. He just has he's like made up of this programmable matter, which is what was inside of the V also. And so there's a lot going on here. I don't want to get too off track, but so that they like kind of like disperse like Kraken tentacles into the city to attack the camp of the Saints, essentially. So this is another big anime series called Bleach, and this is a Mandela effect too. You can see all these letters were separate, but now the A and the C are connected. And I know that like some of these logo changes might seem insignificant, or like how could you possibly notice it? But I'm kind of just like slowly introducing you guys to this, because I'm going to be doing a larger presentation, or multiple presentations, showing you guys tons of these changes and all the patterns and things. So just think in mind, I'll point it out when I see it. And this also might be part of it too. Like I don't really remember this line coming to the H like this, but anyway, so this is the main character, Ichigo. He has to control his spiritual power, because in Bleach they actually invert a lot of things. So there's a dome over the camp of the Saints essentially, but the good guys are the ones who are going to be going through the dome in this case, and like invading into the sort of good area, even though they're kind of like the villains. So these are like the good guy team that's going to be invading, and they're trying to get Ichigo to form this like dome around himself, essentially. And then he loses his concentration, and the dome cracks. So this crack is like what we saw in like the Sonic 2 poster and things like that. So then they're all going to get up into this rocket. This woman is like the one who made the rocket and is going to like light it and get them going. And she takes out this sword. So again, we have like the sword and the stone symbolism, and she raises it up like the blue beam, and then she puts it down and starts like this fire around the rocket. And this is like the eclipse symbolism around the rocket. So you can see how this is like the eclipse portal at the central pillar, and the rocket shoots up, and it makes what's essentially like the peace sign. And this is like the O portal that it shoots through, and you can see how it's like the peace sign. And interestingly enough, about the peace sign, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent here. So you can see this passage in the Bible. This is from Zechariah, and it says in that, and I see, I've heard people talk about this, and I think they're confused about this. This is something I learned from Jay Dreamers too. When when you when you hear like these directions, like east and west, of course, like if a normie is talking about it, east is east and west is west. Just take it like that. But when you're reading the Bible, or when you're looking into this esoteric symbolism, east is actually up and west is down, and then north and south are to the sides. And you could also look at north. North is basically to the center, and south is to the outskirts. So like north is like the central north pole, but north and south are also like the twin pillars, and they're like the sides. But the important thing here is east is up and west is down. So when it says like, um Jesus's feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, then the Mount of Olives is likely the mountain at the North Pole. And it faces Jerusalem on the east. So this is all just talking about up and down, because Jerusalem is at the North Pole also. And it says that the Mount of Olives will be split in two. So now this splitting in two, this is the split mountain, like we were talking about, like with the Thor poster. Um, and east to west is the blue beam shooting up through I would say west to east, frankly, but um, it's the blue beam shooting up from the mountain. And then it says half of the mountain will move to the north, half will move to the south. So that's like it's splitting in half. So this is like some Freemason painting, and it's showing. I put the three pillars over it because this is from a previous video. So like all the text and stuff is what I put over it, but I was just showing a bunch of different things and putting them all together on these three pillars. So you have these three pillars in these old paintings, and they're S, W, and B, and it's basically saying the left pillar is strength, the right pillar is beauty, and the middle pillar, the central pillar, is wisdom. And this comes into play in a lot of ways. Like the name Rome, for instance, means strength. So here you have like Romeo and Juliet. This is like and Juliet. I think the name Juliet means like a son or daughter of Jove, and Jove is like another name for Jupiter, and Jupiter is like Zeus, and Zeus is like Jesus. It's like this would be like the Christ pillar. This would be like the Antichrist pillar. Um, this is also like Sleeping Beauty. They want the right pillar to be asleep. So of course, in Sleeping Beauty, she's like the princess, the blue beam energy being asleep in the Black Tower with like the spiked vines all around it, and the dragon guarding it and all that. Um, so just to be aware of this, because I'll be talking about things that relate to strength, wisdom, and beauty quite a bit. But this was the main point. If you look at these, Freemasonic, paintings or whatever, they're showing you how east is up and west is down. See, west, east, and then north is the left and south is the right. And you could also look at this like the event in New York in September. So you had the Twin Towers, and it was the North and the South Tower. And then the North one is the one with the needle at the top as well. So this is also, you could put the central pyramid over this, and 369. So you have like things relating to the number three are generally with the right pillar. Things relating to the number six are generally the left pillar, and then nine is up here to God. And six. This is like the imposter pillar. So, like, 6 is like the double of 3, and 6 is also the inverted mirror of 9. And you could also see 6 as like the downward spiral, and then 9 is like the upward spiral. And there's even more things too, but, I think that's generally how things work. So here we have again with Revelation. This is just saying that there was a rainbow around God's throne that looked like an emerald. So, like a green emerald rainbow. And here we have in Ketchikan, Alaska, the Emerald Forest. Interestingly enough, their symbol is a dome with the forest under it. So this is like, the aurora borealis that comes from the North Pole. Um, Here in Isaiah 66, Earth is my footstool. The Mount of Olives one again. Oh, so it's like his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. So just I'm trying to say, like, keep these things in mind because I'm going to show you some things. And I also learned a lot of this from Jay Dreamers. This especially too. This is really interesting. So there's a lot of these old paintings and things of Jesus, his feet essentially, like he's ascending up into the heaven through the apex dome. And this is like the North Pole Mountain, and these are like the saints at the camp of the saints. So there's a lot of paintings like this if you look it up. And here's like, this is like his footstool, like at the Mount of Olives or this central North Pole Mountain. And these halos are like depicting like the camp of the saints. And then these wavy lines, these are like the clouds of the apex dome. So essentially what they're showing here is Jesus, this blue beam that represents, the life force of Jesus essentially, charges up below the mountain or inside the mountain, and then it rises up and goes through the apex dome. So that, and then God the Father is essentially in the apex dome. So Jesus rises up to meet him and sits at his right hand because the right pillar is the Christ pillar. So here again, you have the Mount of Olives. This is like the tree. This almost looks like the cut down tree. Like if this tree was like a lot bigger in the past. It's like the world tree cut down the central mountain. So here you have like the apex dome. So I'm just saying there's like a lot of these paintings. You could find a lot of these on your own too. Just look up like, Jesus ascension paintings. So I just wanted to bring that up. Just a lot of things to keep in mind with all this symbolism, because this is basically what we're looking at with all this is the dome and the apex dome and the North Pole Mountain and the blue beam. It relates to everything. So when this rocket shoots up in Bleach with the good characters in it, this is like the blue beam shooting up, and this is like hitting the apex dome, and then this is them inside of the little dome going towards the camp of the saints. Things are like inverted here, but so here you see like the this place is known as Soul Society, and here you see the central castle. The central This is like the world tree that was cut down, so you could picture like a tree, a giant tree that was here before. This is like the Devil's Tower symbolism, and here you have like the concentric rings around the city, and then they call this area in the middle the court of pure souls. And then here they are shooting towards it. This is like the kraken tentacles behind them, the smoke tentacles. The people on the ground who are near the North Pole Mountain area, and this is the bridge too. Notice the bridge symbolism. They're seeing like what's essentially the Star of Bethlehem in the sky, and they're like, what is that? Then someone's like, I can't imagine it'll pass through the anti-soul shield. So this is how he describes the dome, as an anti-soul shield. Like souls can't pass through it, which is something I've heard a lot. Um, so then here, these are all like the sparks that are coming from them hitting the dome or about to hit the dome. This is like the smoke tentacles coming off of them. They're like shooting really fast into the dome. So here's the area from far away. This is like the Earth, the flat, Earth with the concentric circles and the North Pole Mountain. And then this is them here, and they're about to hit the dome. And then they hit the dome, and it makes this huge flash with these sparks and explosions. And then you could see the dome over this area. And then, just like in Hunger Games and the other stuff that we looked at earlier today, this like concentric ring explosion from that impact. And then here's like the cracks in the sky from where they're coming in. And they're saying it hit the anti-soul shield and stopped. So then it forms like the apex dome in the top with the concentric circles. And here's like the plasma coming through. And then this is them from the side, forcing their way through. So this is like the two worlds merging, like the Vesica Pisces, from the top. Like I think that the worlds merge, if you have like the twin pillars and then the worlds merge in the center, there's also like the earth world and then the heavenly world, and they merge also from the top and bottom. So then they come through and the bubble bursts and they all get dispersed in different directions. So this is kind of like that X symbolism also. All right, so getting to this video game, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. A lot of games claim to be like game of the year, but I think this game was like legitimately like the game of the year pretty much in like 2016, I think. And I did actually play this game, and there's a ton of symbolism in this. So this is essentially the camp of the saints. These are like all the good characters with all their different superpowers essentially, and they're at this North Pole mountain castle. And then this is like the army of the dead that's coming to attack the camp of the saints as usual. They're I don't think they're actually. Oh, actually, there are some characters I think in this that are actually dead, and they're like they have like dead like dogs and stuff that are in their army and things like that. So this character, Siri, she represents the blue beam, and here she's doing the Christ pose. And the whole point of this is this Kraken army is trying to get to her, and all the characters that I showed you in the beginning are trying to protect her. They're trying to protect the blue beam from the Kraken army of the undead. So this is like her father figure, and he gets killed. He sacrifices himself, for her, and it's like what we saw with in Star Wars and a bunch of other things. So she freaks out when that happens, and then she becomes the huge blue beam, like the world tree, and she's so powerful that they can't get near her. It like knocks them out. And then later on in the story, these are the two of the main characters. This is the main character. They're talking about how there's a storm coming, which is another typical thing that happens or that people say. And then they see this dome, this plasma dome over this black castle, and notice how the castle too is peeking out through the dome. And then the castle shoots out this blue beam, and they're saying Siri must be there. And then the blue beam, which comes from Siri, is rising up above the castle, and then it goes into the clouds here and hits what's essentially the apex dome. And they're just looking at that, and then they even say like, at least we know where Siri is. Just follow the blue beam. So here, yeah, it's like the Disney castle peeking through the Cocoon one I showed you guys. So this is just a map of Disneyland I threw in here. I mean, this is obviously representing the North Pole area as well. You can kind of divide it into four areas too, but you have the central concentric circles. You got the central castle. There's a lot going on here. I'm just saying that, like, obviously Walt Disney knew what was going on. Even the skull and crossbones is representative of the North Pole because that's like the skull mountain with the X essentially. I noticed this. This is like a VHS tape, and I just like saw this and browsing for some things, and it says Walt, the man behind the myth, and he's touching a globe, but they're only showing the top of the globe, like the dome. So they're saying that he's the man behind the myth of turning this sphere into a dome, or turning this dome into a sphere, essentially. And he was also best friends, or not, I don't know about best friends, but at least friends with a another character who was another big man behind the myth of all the space stuff, and his name is a Mandela effect. I didn't want to just say it without anyone getting to think about it. So if you want to pause the stream or think about it for a few seconds, like how would you spell this guy's first name? So I'll go to it now. Um and this is his tombstone, but now it has an H. So it's like it was just Werner. It wasn't like Werner with the H here. Tombstone, he put Psalms 19:1, like started NASA essentially and was friends with Disney. And Disney basically taught the public with all the space stuff because Disney is like, you know, one of the top experts of or he was the best filmmaker of the time, until Kubrick came along. So Psalm 19:1 is all about the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament shows his handiwork. So this guy who started NASA just puts this passage from Psalms on his uh, tombstone that talks about the dome. So he's just, you know, It's like a confession, essentially. So here's also Fantasia. You got the dome, the North Pole Mountain. This is like the dome, obviously like the kraken, bat, devil imagery, North Pole Mountain, the misty, clouds around it. This is Fantasia 2000. So here you have the dome, and then here's the blue beam rising up over it. This is also like the concentric circles of the North Pole here. So it's just over and over with the same stuff. So this movie, After Earth, of course, the one eye stuff. This might be a Mandela effect too, where the R's don't have the left bars anymore here. I'm not sure about that one, but it looks pretty weird to me. I don't know why they would do that. Um, Something to keep in mind. There's a common pattern too, where just pieces of letters are missing. And if you're familiar with the TV show Angel, just check out what that show looks like now. Like think about like what the logo looks like in your head, and then look it up if you're familiar with that show, because that logo is similar to this, where it just looks ridiculous to me. I actually never even saw that show, but I saw the commercials all the time, and I remember what the logo looks like, and it doesn't look like the way it looks now. Um, yeah, so After Earth, here he basically, well, there's a lot going on there. Hey, Donut, good to see you. So yeah, I forget what I wanted to mention. Oh, 1,000 years ago. It's kind of interesting too. It's like the possible reference to millennial reign in the poster, because what happens here is these characters, Wilson and his son, were in space, and they essentially returned to Earth a long time after Earth had like no human inhabitants on it, and they don't even realize, I think, that they're on Earth to begin with, but then they figure it out. So the movie starts off by showing you this dome, and this is kind of like the North Pole Mountain inside the dome too. And this is Will and his son Jaden after they crash on Earth, and here the ship that they're in has the hexagon dome symbolism, and Will Smith is actually trapped in this ship because he has like a really serious injury. So his son has to leave the ship and send out a communication signal to get help. So in order to send out the communication signal, he has to go to this mountain, which is of course the North Pole Mountain, and it's the communication signal like we saw in Sonic, and it's in a bunch of things where the North Pole Mountain, it's also like the communication tower. It's also like the water tower when you see those things in movies, um, or just a straight up like black tower or tall like skyscraper. But a communications tower is a big symbol for the North Pole also, because this is where we communicate with God, or vice versa. The Antichrist, for the people who got the V and or have that kind of disposition, and also sorry. Sorry, my mouth is just really dry today. So also we got the dead trees symbolism and the waterfall. This is all like North Pole symbolism. Thanks, Deft. I appreciate that. All right. So this is him. This is Jaden thinking about when he was a little kid, and this is his older sister, and she's about to sacrifice herself to save him, and he's inside of this little dome protective shield, and she's gonna fight this kraken alien. Sorry, one second, guys. And she's about to fight like this kraken alien that's about to attack them in their home or in their house. So here it is, killing her, unfortunately, and then he's literally inside of this dome that protects him from the kraken. And in the story, the kraken senses fear. It's actually like blind and deaf, but it can sense your fear. So since he's inside of this dome thing, it can't sense his fear, so it doesn't even know he's there. But this is also symbolic of like the Garden of Eden inside the smaller dome. They got like these plants and stuff go into. But so anyway, later when he's grown up or teenager in the movie, he has to go to the top of this mountain, and in the top of the mountain, he has to go into this crystal cave, which I don't think I have pictures of. But he fights the kraken essentially in this crystal cave. And then he leaves the crystal cave to the top of the mountain and has to fight this alien kraken entity. Um, Spiritual father essentially dying, and he also lost communication with his spiritual father. So Will basically represents God in this situation, and then Jaden is like us, and we're battling the Kraken at the top of the mountain, trying to communicate with God, and at certain points, not always having that, direct line of communication. So he conquers the Kraken, and he actually stabs it with two swords, and the swords make an X through the Kraken. If you ever see this scene, and then he takes the communication device at the top of the mountain and points it up. And it's literally just the blue beam again, shooting straight up from the top of the mountain. Here's essentially the flat, Earth, and then the blue beam shooting up, hitting the apex dome, and then here's the concentric circles that shoot out from beyond it. So I mean, all these different types of movies and stories just have the same exact symbolism. So here's the Dark Tower movie. Yeah, always the blue beam. It's incredible. Sometimes it isn't blue, but it's always just the same thing. Um, and sometimes it comes up, it starts above and goes down. Sometimes, they mix it up, but it's always just the same thing. So this Dark Tower movie has a lot of symbolism. It's another Stephen King story. I forget what I wanted. Oh, so actually, they say his gun. He's a gunslinger, so he doesn't have the swords like the sword and the stone. But they literally say in this story, and I actually read a few of these books. I think I read the first four or five. I know I read the first four books, and then I think I stopped like in the middle of the fifth book. I think there's like seven books. But they say in the story that his guns are actually made from the metal or steel or whatever that was originally the Excalibur sword. So his weapon is the Excalibur. It's just in the form of guns. And then in this poster, heavy needle symbolism and inversion too. Like this is the road. This looks like a needle. These are needles. It's pretty crazy actually. So there's a really amazing scene in this movie too, where the kid, um, oh, well, the kid who's the main character, he draws this. It's just him and Idris Elba at this like camp scene. So you could kind of think of this as the Camp of the Saints. And he draws this on the ground with this tower sticking up. So it's like a circle with the black tower in the middle. And the kid is wondering why he keeps drawing this. And then Roland tells him that it's and that this is the tower in the center. Okay, okay, so this is Idris Elba, Roland, and then this kid, his name is Jake Chambers. So here you have the JC. So a lot of these characters, like John Connor in Terminator, or even James Cameron, the director of Terminator, they, the JC, like Jim Carrey, there's like literally like an endless list. But whenever you see the JC name, it's referencing the Christ character or the Christ in us character. So he's teaching him about the world, and they're talking about this like dome shield essentially that the tower makes to protect us. So Jake says, well, what's it protecting us from? So Idris reaches over and grabs this tarantula that just happened to be crawling around, and whenever you see like a tarantula or like a giant spider, it's symbolic of the kraken also, because the legs of the spider are like the kraken tentacles. So spider is also like whenever you see a big spider in these movies, it's just the kraken again. So he puts the kraken outside of the dome, and he's saying that the kraken can't get in here while this tower is keeping this dome operating. But once the tower comes down and the dome goes away, then the kraken can come in, and that's what I think is going to happen with our plasma shooting up, and then this will be like the red and black plasma that um, will essentially take over the rest of the world where it can't get to. So there will probably be like a smaller dome here. There's a few options for that type of thing. So in the show Lost, this is my number one recommendation of anything really. When I rewatched this like a few years ago, my mind was just totally blown because I watched it when it first came out and I loved it, even though I didn't like the last season. I rewatched it, like just everything clicked, and it was uh, really incredible. Like if you haven't seen, definitely check it out, or if you're due for a rewatch, definitely check it out. So on the excuse me on the Lost map, this is essentially the North Pole Island again, And a ton of these things are symbolic. You know, you have the black rock right here. You got the radio tower, like I was talking about. That's like the communications tower. The looking glass, the hydra. That's like the kraken on the outside of the area. I mean, there's a lot in here. The door. So here's them looking at the island. This is the oh, that's awesome, Four Jacks. Yeah, it's so mind blowing. Like every episode is just a mind blow. So this is the essentially the North Pole island. Here's like the mist over the mountain that they usually show. So this is the initiative setting up this barrier that's essentially around the camp of the saints. And see, like this barrier makes a ring around the area where they're stationed. And the point of this ringed barrier, you might be able to guess it at this point if you're not familiar with Lost, but it's a barrier that keeps a certain something out of the camp of the saints, and it just happens to be the Kraken. So this is Juliet, I think, and she isn't worried about this smoke kraken right in front of her because this barrier is keeping it away. So again, you know, the dome keeps the kraken out, and then when the blue beam shoots up, it gets rid of the dome. It rolls up like a scroll, like the Bible says, and then the kraken is allowed to enter the earth, or at least most of the earth. So also interesting. This is forgetting his name in the Michael and his son Walt. And Walt finds a comic book in the wreck of the plane crash when they first arrive at the island. And this is the comic book. It's a Green Lantern and Flash comic book, I guess. And there's a lot of symbolism, but also notice the hexagon dome, like in the background. And also, there's a lot of like, you know, twin stuff going on. And there's a lot in this cover you could check out. But inside, they also have the polar bear, and there was a polar bear that actually appears on the island. So a lot of people were interested in what's in this comic book because, um, you know, it was like kind of like prophetic. And it was also interesting that there's a polar bear on a tropical island. But if you understand the symbolism of what's going on here, they're also telling you that this is, even though it's a tropical island, it's symbolic of the Arctic, the North Pole. And that's why there's a polar bear. And also in that comic book, there just so happens to be this dome image with the central mountain. You know, it's a little inverted of what I've been saying, but you got the plasma, you got the dome, you got the central mountain area. You know, so it's really crazy. So here are these Percy Jackson movies. These are loaded with stuff too. I actually watched these on a recommendation from someone because there's something really crazy in the second movie, but I don't think I'm going to get into it in this stream. I don't think I have enough time, frankly. Um, but this is the first poster. So here you might be able to see it already. You know, maybe if you want to, I don't know. If you want to take like a couple seconds, maybe or try to like pause the stream or something just to see if you can see it too, because it's a little bit veiled. But you know, here we have him making the dome, and then here we have like the North Pole Mountain with the blue beam shooting up, and then this is like the apex dome. So it's basically just in everything essentially. And these movies are loaded. So I guess like Disney is making a new series about this. I just saw this when I was looking up some images a few days ago. But this is that sword in the stone imagery again. And here's like the Kraken, of course, and it's also kind of making like a dome, like the quest continues under the dome. But also, you know, this is like the pyramid, like the Titanic and the other stuff, and he's got the sword and the stone and the kraken tentacle, and this is all happening in the storm. You know, it's all the same symbolism. So here, this is the poster for part two. This is like the four creatures that like Ezekiel and John of Patmos talk about in the Bible. Yeah, so in Revelation, you know, I don't want to get too into this honestly, but my voice is kind of going here, and I think I have a lot more to cover. Um, but you can look it up for yourself. Like this poster is basically showing like the four creatures. It's like the Ezekiel wheels vision. So in this movie, they have a camp. And it's literally called like a camp. So it's like the camp of the saints, and this is where the heroes with the superpowers live and are protected by this barrier. So it's written in like Greek, I guess, and then the main character is able to naturally just read Greek, so it's called Camp Half Blood. Um, Yeah, there are like Nephilim hybrids for sure. But I also think that everything has like a dual nature to it, you know. Um, so you could see it like positively or negatively. Uh, so it's hard to see because it's dark, but there's three characters running, and I think this is Percy and his friend, and then this is his mother, and they're all trying to escape this giant like bull minotaur creature. So they run into this camp, but only him and his friend get in, and the mother can't get in because she's not allowed into the barrier. So she gets captured by this minotaur, and this is like the apex dome symbolism with the horns. And he has to fight this minotaur. This is like, you know, the sword and the stone versus the apex dome. This is also like a kind of like a random Freemason symbol here with the almost like the compass and square type of thing. Um, so his sword gets knocked away, I guess, and then he reaches. Oh, I know. So I don't. It's hard to see because it's so dark, but the bull essentially hits this tree, and part of its horn gets broken off. So he drops his sword, but then he pulls this horn out of the tree, and he's able to kill or stop the bull with that. Um, but you can see how you know, there's a lot to cover, but this is like, you know, we're shown possibly what the Earth looks like or what the dome looks like with these sun dogs, you know. So this is like those bullhorns you just saw, and this is likely the apex dome above our dome. And this is also in the show Naruto that I was talking about before. I thought it was weird back when I watched this show. This is such a strange looking beast, and it's like it's called like an ox octopus, and it's like the kraken entity. And I was just like, you know, why would they mix an ox with an octopus? But it's because they're blending those two symbols because they both represent what's outside of the apex dome. I think um, is this kraken entity and this bull shape. Let's see. And he also lost part of his horn too, right in the same spot. So I don't know what that means right now, but it's interesting. So the lightning thief, um, that is they basically have Zeus's lightning here, so that's like Jesus's blue beam essentially. And this guy is trying to steal it to start a war. So he's like the Antichrist character. His name is Luke, also. So when you see names like Luke, that's like the left pillar. So this is like the left pillar trying to steal. You know, he's got the sword and the blue beam, and he's just making trouble essentially. And then this is the end of the second movie, I think, where they get the golden fleece, and the fleece is like the golden lamb essentially. So they put the golden, and they lost like the barrier. They lost like their world tree to the camp somehow. I forget exactly how it goes, but she puts this golden fleece down at the bottom of the tree, and the golden fleece has the powers of resurrection because it's like a symbol of Christ again. So it resurrects this world tree, and the world tree is also the blue beam, which they're showing here. And then the once the world tree is resurrected, not only does it become the blue beam, it puts out the dome barrier again to protect the camp of the saints, and they're all happy about it. So here's the amazing Spider-Man. Um, just so this is like another inverted character because you know the spider is like the kraken and Peter Parker is like the PP, like antichrist, you know, the doubling, because like the P symbolizes Christ, like in the Chiro symbol that I was talking about in previous live streams. um so you know the Spider-Man also makes like that horn symbol, and this also might be a Mandela effect. I have a I kind of think I know why it is too, but I don't want to get into it right now. But it's just interesting because this is the only D in Spider-Man where it's got like this big opening in it. It's kind of strange. So here's the Amazing Spider-Man 2 poster where you know they're showing how things are inverted. He's like upside down, the city's upside down. So in the end of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, here we have like the clock tower. So this is like the North Pole Tower. You have the concentric circles, and then there's a dome at the top of the tower. And then Spider-Man is running to the top of this tower, and he gets to the top of the dome. So this is like the Kraken outside of the dome, and he sits on top of like the apex dome. And then the villain in this is the blue beam because things are inverted. So you know the Kraken is the good guy, and the blue beam is the villain. And the villain is Electro, and it's basically blue beam versus kraken, but they invert things. Here's the sparks and the glass breaking and all that. It's the same symbolism. And this is the plasma. The blue beam will be plasma like lightning. So this is the movie Free Guy. He definitely represents the blue beam. He's literally known as the blue shirt guy, and it's that same cyan sky blue color of the blue beam. Um, and there's a lot going on here. I mean, this is kind of like the Kraken, smoke tendrils, and he's got the fishbowl. The fishbowl represents the dome also, and we're like the fish in the dome. He's also drinks coffee because when he's an NPC, he always drinks coffee because that's the black goo. So this is him waking up. The first thing we see of him is him waking up, like we saw with King Kong. Uh, Sorry, just checking out the chat. Looks like everything's okay. I thought there might be like a problem with the chat, but it's all good. So he wakes up and he sees the fish bowl. So here's the fish in the fish bowl, and he even moves his head around, like matching the fish with where his third eye is. Interestingly enough, so here's him and his friend. They both work at the bank, and they both drink coffee all the time because they're both NPCs who are addicted to black goo. So these are like he's essentially the God character, and she's like the Christ blue beam character. Well, she's like the Holy Spirit character, and he's like the God the Father character essentially. And then the main character, he's like the blue beam Christ in us character, the NPC who wakes up and becomes enlightened and spiritually evolved. So she's the one who enters the game to help him, and he stays on the outside of the game like God the Father. So they're in this tunnel, and this is actually similar. If Yeah, dude, I'm just going to get rid of this loser. Okay, so we have them entering this tunnel, and he actually even says, if you watch this scene, "Are we at the North Pole?" And then this is like the God character and the Holy Spirit character, and if you look at the wall here, they have a lot of incredible like symbolism on the wall here. So you have the snow globe symbolism. You have the it's like the island, North Pole Island, and then you have like the eye in the sky, apex dome symbolism here. Then here he is running on the beach because he was told that there was like a barrier, like the dome barrier. So he throws something at it. Here you have like the impact with the concentric circles. Um, and here he is like testing the dome barrier. And here's like the memory loss. I was going to get into memory, but there's just too much to go through, so I'll have to talk about memory another time. But something that you'll see a lot in these movies or stories is someone will have memory loss, or a lot of people will lose their memories, things like that. Amnesia appears in a lot of things. Let's see. So that was after the memory loss. So then here, at the end of the movie, he has to take a leap of faith through this barrier, and then he ends up in paradise. So this is like the blue beam. Essentially, what this is the blue beam taking a leap of faith and rising through the dome. He goes through the dome and ends up in paradise inside the apex dome. And here he's on the paradise island now. I'll be talking about memory a lot in the future. That's obviously going to play a part with the Mandela effect in a huge way as well. So here he's in paradise. You have all the waterfalls, and here's the hexagon dome again. And the studio, the video game studio that made this particular Matrix like video game is called Tsunami, like the wave tsunami, but it also has the word soon, because I think they're telling people like this movie came out only a few years ago. They're saying this is all going to be going down soon. So this is from a previous video of mine where I just showed a bunch of people, a bunch of these types of characters waking up. So, he wakes up in this movie for the first time like that. Blue shirt guy, where are the fish? Neo in the Matrix, he's waking up in a in a prison world essentially. The computer wake up. The first time we see Dolores, and she's waking up, and she's like a robot basically who starts to evolve like the NPC, the robot. People without any spirituality essentially becoming awakened and spiritual. And her name is and she's also, of course, the feminine yellow and blue that's imprisoned, who's constantly being tortured, inside of this prison world. Batman, the first time we see him in the Christopher Nolan trilogy, he's waking up inside of a prison. Yeah. The first time we see the clone in the island, he's waking up after having a dream about the North Pole Island, essentially. The first time we see Jack in Lost, he's waking up, and his name's Jack Shepherd, so he's obviously the Christ character. And at the end of the show, it's literally Christ versus Antichrist. Um, I don't want to give too much away or say too much. It's just I'll talk about Lost, I'm sure, in the future a lot. But he has to literally save the world from the kraken. In the Lego movie, Emmett, the first time we see him, he's waking up. The name Emmett actually means the whole truth. So it's like, he represents like the truth waking up in the world. And the president business is Trump. And he literally puts out the Kraggle, which is the Kraken, which is in a bunch of V needles and tentacles. Um, and he puts it out in 2020. They call it Taco Tuesday, which is TT, and the letter T is 20, so it's 2020, which is exactly when President Business Trump put the V out. So this is all predictive programming because they know the script of the world ahead of time. At least a group of people do, or a group of fallen angels, or whoever is writing all these movies, knows this stuff. This is President Business, the Trump character. This is the Kraggle. You can see it looks like the V needle, and then it's put out from a black cube that has all these tentacles shooting out of it. And then here's the unsuspecting public. They think that this is all a big party and that the government, loves them. Shot with the V. And this came out in 2014. Keep in mind. Just a second here. All right. Now this is the Barbie movie. It starts out with showing us the dome through. This is like looking down from the apex dome, basically, and then this is the dome here, dome from the side, and then it zooms in up here to where she is, and this is like the dome from the top, and then she's waking up, and then the whole point of this story is it's like like her world is like a feminine world, but then it's taken over by a masculine presence, and everything's like ruined. So she has to like save the world from that. Essentially, it's like the vesica piscis, like the world's merging essentially. Just a second. Sorry, my throat and mouth are just like really dry today. And she's also sleeping under the dome. This bed thing is like a dome, and then she does like the Christ pose, like the Atlas pose when she wakes up. And here you can see it's like a dome that she's sleeping under. So here in Dark City, John, like the right pillar, the first time we see him, he's waking up for the first time, and he's got the red door on his forehead. This is like being an NPC, uh, or like a clone, or like all the like a robot. But what he does when he first wakes up, so this thing is swinging back and forth, and it's making eclipse. It's a light from the ceiling, and it's making bubbles on the floor because it's like eclipsing this light reflection. And then he goes into the mirror and wipes the red door off his forehead, and then he starts his whole enlightenment journey after he opens the door, and then he breaks the fishbowl, which is like breaking the firmament. And then here in the background too, you can see they have the fishbowl symbolism with the broken glass, and then here is the dome with the apex dome over it. And he wouldn't let the V into his room. I don't want to get too into the room symbolism now, but the room is the room inside of our heads. It's like the space also. And the reason he had the red door was because the doctor tried to put this needle into his third eye, but he rejected it. So he just had the little cut on his skin, but it didn't go into him. and then he saves the fish. So here's End of Days. It's another heavily symbolic movie with Arnold. Uh, Forget exactly what I wanted to say about those. I mean, you got like the Kraken over it, and then the nines and six. It's showing like the nines and sixes, how they're similar. Like I was saying, like with the left pillar and the God number, same thing. So this is the end of the movie. Of course, it takes place in a church. You know, churches, temples, they're often symbolic of the North Pole. He looks up above, and here's the dome. Then you have the apex dome, and all these lights coming up. I mean, this is like the Kraken tentacles. It's also like light, and you could also see a lot of old paintings and stained glass windows and things with this kind of light, representative of this apex dome. And then the Kraken entity that he's fighting comes through, breaks the glass, breaks through the dome. Uh, I guess this is like breaking the glass. Then it lands in this church. You can see it's got like tentacles, and it's like a big bat, like kraken tentacle thing. And this is all happening while the year 2000 is being rung in New York City, which represents the North Pole, which I talked about before. And let's see. Okay, so here's the ball drop. This is like the apex dome coming down the North Pole, essentially. Talked about that before too. To the year 2000. So this is the main character, the two main characters, but Robin Tunney, and she thinks that Arnold saved her from the Kraken, but what actually happened was the Kraken took him over, so he's now an imposter. So she's happy at first, but then he like grabs her hand really hard, and she realizes that he's actually an imposter. And the whole point was to like sacrifice her on this altar. It's been a long time since I saw this movie too, so I'm just trying to remember exactly what happens. But he's essentially the Kraken about to sacrifice, you know, the she's likely the Christ figure or the blue beam in this movie. Um, and there's this statue had fallen over, so this sword is pointing straight up like the blue beam. And then Arnold, because he still has like a kernel of his original self in him, he chooses to, you know, jump on the sword instead of sacrificing her. But this is the Kraken being impaled by the blue beam, which you'll often see. It's like what I was showing in like the Hobbit, where Bilbo shoves the blue sword up into the giant spider. So you'll often see Kraken characters being impaled by a sword or something through them, and then all this fire comes out. It looks like this. So here's a 2001 Space Odyssey. This is like the X of the North Pole. This is like the blue beam, the apex dome probably. So on the moon, they actually have like a huge dome here too. Just showing all this dome symbolism. You might not remember that there's a giant dome in 2001. And here's the concentric circles targeting system. This is also the movie that has the AI HAL in it. You'll often see the AI represented by a red eye because that's like the left pillar, the red pillar. Like in Wally here, it's the same entity basically. And this is like captaining the ship, and like the ship is our vessel, and the captain. This is like the captain's wheel, but it's being autopiloted by AI, while this guy gets fat and stupid and drinks coffee. And look, like if you're watching this drinking coffee, you know, you're not drinking black goo. I'm not saying coffee's healthy for you either, but it's just symbolic of the black goo. Um, and in this movie, this guy, the captain actually chooses to become enlightened, and the people return to paradise. They actually start, you know, exercising and learning, and they return to paradise at the end of the movie. So this is a show called The Prisoner. This show is really interesting too. I know Matt from Quantum of Conscious has talked about this one too. So this is like the big dome room where the controllers are watching everything with like the all-seeing eye. And this isn't necessarily like AI, but it is like the apex dome and the all-seeing eye symbolism. And I think this is like a newer poster, but you know, you got the dome heavy symbolism, and this is even like the layers of the dome. And here you have like the three. It's like the tetragrammaton on the top. So it's all the same stuff. And in the show, they actually greet each other with the 666 over the eye symbol, and they say like "be seeing you." That like that's how they say hello and goodbye to, or they say that's how they say goodbye to each other. At least I don't know if that's how they say hello. But like this is our supposed previous president doing the same thing. And I showed you guys a ton of this stuff in the first live stream. But this is just so ridiculous looking. I wanted to. I think there's something else I was going to say too with that, but and I forget. But there's a million examples of celebrities doing this triple six over the eye pose. And actually, I first heard of the prisoner way back around like the year 2000 because The Simpsons did a like a parody episode on the prisoner, and it was this Mr. X episode where Homer makes a website and he puts basically a bunch of fake news on the website, but he like makes up a bunch of things, but one of the things he makes up actually turns out to be real. So they kidnap him and put him on this prisoner island because they don't want that information getting out. And the thing that turned out to be real, this is where Flanders is reading it, is Homer said they were going to put out a V, and the V was going to essentially be like a mind control V. It wasn't meant to like help like an illness like the flu. It was meant to do something much more sinister. So that just happens to be the piece of news that Homer put out there that got him in trouble. And they were like, "Hey, how do you know about like this world scripting, type of thing?" So he goes to the island, and they have like literally like the number six guy from the prisoner, greeting him. This is the island. It's like the North Pole Island. This is like the Purple Mountains, Majesty, which is also a Mandela effect. If you look at that song, it's now Purple Mountains Majesties. Or no, it's Purple Mountain Majesties, but it used to be Purple Mountains Majesty. And then whenever you see like a peacock, that's like the dome symbolism. And this, when you look at it like from the front, like the NBC logo, it's the blue beam essentially shooting up through the dome. There's a lot of stuff too, like the penguin, the black and white bird is important because that's like the central pillar. The black and white, like flying up the central pillar, and the red phone booth. Phone booths come up a lot. I don't want to get too into it, but it's all important. And this is interesting too because they try to keep getting him to take these V's and they put it in like ice cream so that'll take it. And this is like the normie masses, they were I don't even know if I would say tricked, but they got the V because they got like free donuts and stuff. It's like a satanic joke, really. So this is Logan's Run. This is a definite 100% Mandela effect where the G is merged into the A now. It definitely was not like this. This is one of my favorite movies. I have the old VHS tape. 0% chance that this was like this. Um, there's no reason to even do that. It makes it so difficult to look at. But this was just a normal A in that same font. So here you have the heavy dome symbolism. They actually all live under a dome. This is like the pyramid. Yeah, they make it like the pyramid here. These are the domes they live in. I don't know how much I want to get into this. So here's like the Capitol dome. Okay, so they escape the dome. These two, they're like Adam and Eve, and they find this old guy who's been living in this Capitol dome. So the Capitol dome comes up a lot because that's the dome symbolism as well. Here's like the sparks from the dome. This is like the end of the movie where they get so like at the end of the movie, the whole thing is about the dome basically exploding and the people being freed from this dome prison essentially. This movie Life Force, this is a really crazy movie with heavy symbolism. It's got a lot of nudity in it, just to, caution anyone who's got a problem with that. But major, major symbolism in this movie. Uh, so this is like the dome. These are like the beams going up, and then this is like the apex dome with the lights or tentacles coming off the sides, like that kraken entity and all-seeing eye up in the sky. There's another. I think this is like a newer like Blu-ray cover or something with the dome with the. So she represents the blue beam, but they do have things inverted where she's kind of like the Kraken also. Um, but yeah, the blue beam going up. So in the movie, this is what the blue beam looks like, and these dots are like little plasma balls or like ball lightning that are going up and down the main plasma chute of the blue beam. And in my opinion, this is like what the Bible is talking about when it says like angels will be ascending and descending upon Christ. So this is like the manifestation of Christ's, life force. and then these little ball lightnings going up and down are like the angels going up and down on that. And I think that's what it'll look like in real life. It's like if you read that Bible passage, it sounds weird that angels are going to be ascending and descending upon Christ. But, if you look at it like this, I think that's probably what it's going to look like. Uh, is this what it says? Yeah. Oh, I didn't think I included this. Yeah. So a ladder was set up on the earth. So the ladder was set up on the earth. This is like the ladder, and its top reached to the heaven. So its top goes to the heaven to the apex dome, and there the angels were ascending and descending. So that's what you're seeing here in this Life Force movie. So here it is coming out of the top of the dome or the temple or like the church, the North Pole Mountain, and here they're literally she's the blue beam. It's because of her. And then the main character Steve Railsback goes through this gate with these circular portals, and they unite. So this is like the masculine and feminine uniting at the central pillar and shooting up to the apex dome. I mean, there's a lot in that movie. Honestly, I'll probably talk about it again, I'm sure. So in this Atlantis movie, I'm pretty sure this is a Mandela effect. This middle A may have always been like this, but this first A is very likely a Mandela effect because it makes it tough to read. For this is like a kids movie, and a lot of A's have turned into this lambda symbol. But I don't know from my own experience. But what I do know is that Atlantis refers to the North Pole, and they're showing you here the North Pole mountain with the mist around it, with the concentric circles. So this is all the same symbolism. Here you have the pyramid with the blue beam shooting up. This girl here, she's the blue beam. She's like the Christ feminine spiritual energy. And I actually haven't even seen this movie. I did see the end of it though, because that's what I'm going to show you guys here. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but here you got the dome, you got the blue beam shooting through the dome. This is apparently a sequel to the movie, and so here you have like the North Pole Mountain again, and here it looks like he's fighting like the kraken tentacles, or maybe it looks like it might actually be a good character. And here you got like the yellow and blue coloring for the Christ characters. So at the end of this movie, there's this beam that shoots out and hits like this pyramid thing with all this plasma, and then it rises up and I guess becomes this North Pole mountain with like the apex dome kind of at the top, and then they form this dome, and here you have the smoke kraken tentacles hitting the outside of this protective dome, and the smoke kraken tentacles are coming from this volcano that's about to erupt. So they make this protective dome go over this North Pole mountain, and this is kind of also like the dead tree. It looks like a tree stump for the world tree. And then it's also the fire and ice symbolism, which happens at the central pillar because you have the two pillars merging at this point. And the Kraken plasma essentially goes over the dome plasma, but the Camp of the Saints in here is protected under the dome. And then it hardens, and then they get rid of it through some kind of magic. So the dome explodes, and yeah, I don't want to get too into it. Obviously, this is like the Christ pose that these giants are making, I think, to make this dome. And then the main character, he notices this beam, and he looks up, and the beam is coming from the heavens. And then the Christ, blue beam character, yellow and blue, descends in this beam because she is the beam, and she's like coming down to earth, and she has the crystal. So you'll notice that these characters often have a crystal, like the Koopa in Mario Brothers and a bunch of other. They're always after this crystal because it's the third eye. They basically want to invade your space. So like they want the Antichrist to live in your third eye and basically pilot your vessel. But we have the choice to go with Christ and have Jesus pilot our vessel, essentially. So this is like the camp of the saints being protected under the dome. And then you'll often see this too when the main character and like the Christ blue beam character get together. They make this M handhold, and this is like the oops, this is like the M for the split mountain at the North Pole center, because the mountain gets split open, like we read in the Bible before, like the Mount of Olives gets split open by the blue beam by Christ's return to the earth. And I'm not saying that Jesus isn't also like a person as well. Like God can be many things at the same time. So he's also the blue beam. So here's Twin Peaks. You got the Twin Peaks under the dome symbolism. Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome. This movie's huge. I mean, here you got like the spear, which is like the blue beam, also the arrow, and this is like the blue beam shooting through the dome, basically. And this is like the hair is like the kraken tentacles usually from the apex dome, like Medusa's hair of snakes. And then it's likely that that kraken plasma will also have petrification properties, so that's why that Medusa symbolism comes into play. So here's the Thunderdome. They got the big dome where they have fights. Um, I mean, there's a lot going on. So here's like the X, you know, at the top for the North Pole. And this guy in the center is doing like the Christ pose, but he's got the staff. But he also has like the Freemason compass and square. The compass and square basically represents the Earth to me because it has like G in the center also, which represents God. And like a G, like the letter G also is like a spiral into the center, you know? It's like that. But he says, you know, two men enter and one man leaves. So this is like the twin pillars under the dome, like we saw with Twin Peaks. But what we're experiencing right now is these twin pillars merging into the central pillar, into one pillar. So that's why it's like two men enter, one man leaves. So like when we entered this life that we're in, we had two pillars, a physical pillar and a spiritual pillar inside of us, like two spirits, and like a twin spirit. And those twin spirits have been merging into one spirit or one, you know, personality or whatever. And that's what's been happening, and that's what's representative here in this Beyond Thunderdome with two becoming one. Here's a better view of the Freemason symbol there. This is like, well, there's a lot going on. So here's Aquaman, uh, the trident, the waterfall, of course. This is like the blue beam, essentially, too. And Aquaman's name is Arthur. So he's like King Arthur, and he literally has to like pull like the sword from the stone. What's going on here? I think this is Aquaman's mother and father. Okay. Oh, so I was just gonna like show you guys like a snow globe symbolism. So like the lighthouse is also like the North Pole Mountain under the dome, and this is the Dunwich horror. This is the Lovecraftian stuff is about like the Cthulhu monster, which is the Kraken. So they're like saying like the Kraken is outside of the dome, you know. So at one point in the movie, Aquaman has to go to the North Pole Island with the waterfall, and it's called the Hidden Sea at the core of the earth, at the center of the earth. And of course, not thinking like a sphere, if you think of it like a disc, you know, this is at the center of the earth. And it's a hidden island with magical properties. You know, you got all these things floating and everything. So he has to go through this waterfall down. He goes down into the abyss, into like Neptune's fallen kingdom, essentially. Now here's like the dead, you know, God or the dead, you know, Christ King. This guy was the king of Atlantis, and you see the beam, and this was like his throne, and the throne is symbolic of the third eye. So this is like being in like the spiritually dead, like the land of the dead, and these are like the kraken tentacles wrapped around the twin pillars around the throne. There's a closer look of it. So this is like the trident, but it's also the sword and the stone, and the trident is like the tree of life also. Um, So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. But anyway, he has to fight the kraken in order to get the sword and the stone, essentially. So this is like this big kraken monster, and when he defeats the kraken, and notice it has like the bull horns too, and the tentacles, like I showed you in the Naruto beast. It's like the octopus. So that's all the same symbolism. Just one second. Okay. Um, Whoa, we're on 240. Whoa. Okay. I didn't realize that time has been going by so fast. Wow. Uh, I'm not even. Oh, let's see where I'll get through some more here. Uh, I was hoping I'd get through this faster. So anyway, he ends up like kind of befriending the Kraken, which is something that you'll see in a lot of these things. when your light is powerful enough, the kraken will essentially turn to the light also. That's what we see at the end of the Matrix. Like when Smith enters Neo with the black goo takeover, Neo is so powerful, um, he because he's connected to the machine mainframe, which is the like Mount Meru. Um, he's also connected to the source. They say his light is so powerful that he overpowers Smith's darkness, and then they become like a whole person. And then Neo, is enlightened and goes on to essentially sacrifice himself, but goes to like heaven at the end, essentially like Valhalla, basically. And here the Kraken has been turned to the light side because Aquaman was so powerfully good, and he's also King Arthur. His name is Arthur. So here we have like the plasma coming off of the trident. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate all the awesome stuff you're saying in the chat. It's much appreciated. And I forget what I'm showing here. Just more tentacles. Like he gets the Kraken to essentially fight for him in this last battle. So that's something to keep in mind also. So the show Fringe, Olivia here has the blue beam flashlight. Like take a note whenever someone has like a flashlight. It's usually like blue beam symbolism. It depends on the scene though and the character. Here you see like the Watchers on the outside. These are like the Men in Black. There's a lot of like Watcher symbolism in all these movies too. Not all of them, but some of them. But this is what I wanted to show you is that snow globe symbolism with the dome. So yeah, this woman, her name is Nina, and she's showing Olivia this like merging of twin worlds that's happening. So she takes these two snow globes and smashes them together, and then there's only one world left. So this is like the same thing as like the Beyond Thunderdome, like two enter, one leaves. So like only one of their worlds is going to survive, and you could think of the pillars as worlds. Also, they're like cities, worlds, pillars, towers, twins. All these things mean the same thing. Going back to Dark City, the Christ pose with the dome. Oh, okay, yeah. So I just wanted to show you this real quick because they often use this snow globe symbolism. This is probably just going to be a few snow globes in a row. So here's like Shell Beach in the snow globe. Then they actually show the barrier here. Now he's not actually in a dome, but this is like the dome barrier symbolism. And the Holy Spirit Christ character essentially injects John the right pillar's third eye with truth because when he injects him with this, he gives him all these memories, and he gives him like the information on how to defeat the alien kraken, essentially, which is what we've all been getting now. And he's imprisoned in this underground area with these like tentacles around him, but he's like the yellow and blue Christ Holy Spirit character, and he's trying to get John to become enlightened. And he drops the black goo needle onto the ground. You can see the black goo come out, and he's telling him to remember. So now he in his memories, he's showing him like these are like just brand new memories. Like so John's house burned down, and then he was rescued from the burning house by this Christ character. So he could rise up from the ashes like the phoenix. And then he's telling him to he's showing him like all the flaws in the Kraken system and all that, and how he can take over the world instead of the Kraken taking over the world. And he's also looking directly at the audience because this filmmaker is like some kind of like angel or fallen angel. Like who knows like who these people are to have this kind of knowledge and to understand, filmmaking and present the symbolism in these ways. So they absolutely know that when a character is looking at the screen, they're talking directly to us. And he's got the right eye highlighted because he's Christ-like. Um, and he's saying to concentrate and to wake up, to us. So John, who represents us, is now becoming more enlightened, and he's having like a third eye battle essentially with this Kraken alien. And here's like the concentric circles going back and forth at each other and the plasma. And then in the middle of their fight, you have the North Pole Mountain. Middle of these guys. It's so ridiculous. At Earth essentially. And these are like the roots, tentacles of the tree of life at the bottom. I don't want to get too into that right now. Here's a Zombieland. I think this might actually be a good spot to end after this because this is I didn't realize I was on for so long. All right, so in Zombieland, This is actually interesting, like, it's obviously, like, perverse, this, like, "nut up or shut up" thing, but if you think about it in a symbolic sense, so obviously, like, a normie looks at this and they just laugh and they think it's funny, like in, Idiocracy or something. And this is actually a pretty good movie. I'm not saying the movie's bad, but, the average movie-going audience would just be like, "Aha," "That's a funny thing to say." But what I think they're actually referring to is this Newt, uh, Egyptian goddess of the sky. That's you can find a bunch of these old paintings where, Newt or firmament, and she has the stars inside. Really a lot going on here, but I just wanted to make that connection. Know about all this symbolism. They know about all these mythological, so these are you could find a bunch of examples of Newt being the sky god, the firmament, essentially. Here's another poster for it. It's kind of like Armageddon, obviously. So the movie starts out with the Capitol dome, and it's like inverted. You see how like things are like this ground right here. So this is upside down. The United States is upside down, um, and then you have the Capitol dome is on fire. So this is like the burning building, and it's also the dome, which is our head, which is also the firmament above you, jumping out from the probably behind this car. You know, putting like the dead, the V like under the dome. Um, so here, this character has she finds like these snow globes, and they start just everything in this place, just for fun because the whole world is empty and they got nothing else to do. So they destroy these snow globes, and here. This just shows how the world stage shows these things too to us, like on the news. So here's like the dome event that happened. Uh, and 1/6, and they called it the storming of the Capitol, and writers are storm. So like they associated this word storm with Capitol, which is the dome, and then Trump literally this was like about 3 years prior. Um, they say, do you guys know what this? Trump says, do you know what this represents? So they go, tell us. He says it's the calm before the storm, and they go, what storm? And he says the calm before the storm, and they're trying to guess what he's talking about. And then he shows the 666 hand sign, but exactly 3 years and 3 months after he said this was when he said this on October 6th, 2017, and then on the 6th of was it 2020, I guess, or 2021? 2021, I guess. There was the storm under the dome. So he's like predictively programming it, 3 years and 3 months beforehand. And we also see the dome play out recently with the Israel Iran situation. And this is like, the kraken over the dome symbolism that I was talking about too. And I even saw like a news broadcast from CNN where they were calling the Iran missile strikes like the octopus tentacles. Hey, supernatural Bible changes. Good to see you. And that's also another awesome Mandela Effect channel to check out. I highly recommend subscribing to them, especially if you're interested in the Bible changes. There's a lot of awesome information. So here's Trump with he's talking about putting the Golden Dome over the United States. So like all this dome symbolism, um, and this is kind of like protecting the camp of the saints. Even though this is he's the Antichrist character on the world stage. He's doing things for nefarious reasons, of course. But yeah, so this is like what I showed, like in the beginning of the first live stream, just to reiterate. There's three elements to this world script. You have on the left, like this column is like on the world stage. You could also include like the Hollywood media in this, where all these actors just play things out on the world stage, whether it's in a movie or whether it's on the news. Like this is just a bunch of BS. This was all put on. This is just the world leaders, planning or getting their instructions from, literally Lucifer or something when they have these meetings, just being told what the next pieces of the world script to put in play are. This is like the world itself, and this is what's happening inside of us. A lot of people are wolves in sheep's clothing or imposters. This is like our dual twin spirits, fighting each other. This is also known as like the dance or like the spiritual dance that's happening inside of us between light and darkness. And then for those of us who conquer and ascend to the top of the mountain, they're making the Christ pose. It's like that. Uh, Man, I can't believe how long this stream has been on. Um, Man, I do have more to talk about, but I think I'm gonna call it there. It's a good time. It's a good spot to call it. But I do have a lot more I could say on the subject because there's like domes and everything. So I have like a lot of notes, and I just like compiled like a bunch of my screenshots and things that I've taken over the years into this folder. So there's still a few more things I'd like to talk about, but I don't want to go past 3 hours. I don't think my voice can really take much more anyway. Um, so yeah, I'll call it there. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I really appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys on the next one. I'm just wrapping things up. And I appreciate you guys. And God bless.